What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Free China Pod. We're already riled up.
I'm riled up at least.
Ari's riled up.
I wrote an article about this topic, if anyone's interested, about low housing taxes. But anyone who's listening to this podcast probably is not interested in reading the Mandarin language article that I wrote about it.
Maybe. You never know. We have some real Renaissance people that listen to this podcast, some real linguists. So you can also...
All right, Ben.
This is... This is the thing is with modern technology, even if it's in a different language, you just Google Translate that thing.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
You just translate that page. It's better than nothing, though.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, you should learn languages, but yeah. Worst case, you can still just translate it.
Lately, I was on Netflix. I was trying to figure out if any of these TV shows are dubbed in Mandarin because I love to go back and watch Seinfeld or Breaking Bad and have Mandarin dubs and nothing. But what is interesting is they all have Japanese dubs. So if you're learning Japanese, you could go back and watch all the old classics, and they have weird, unfitting Japanese dubs for them.
The dubs are always strange. I hate dubs. For that purpose, it's very useful. But otherwise, I hate when people dub shows. It's just looks weird, sounds weird.
Sometimes you don't notice. I was watching an India movie recently that I also wrote a review on the website. People can check out. And I didn't realize until the end the whole thing was dubbed. And I thought it was in Hindi naturally, but no, the movie was in Telugu, and then they dubbed it in Hindi even.
Wow. Interesting.
It's a cool movie. I think you'd like it. It's very anti-colonial and violent.
Hell yeah.
But it's 3 hours long. So violent.
Is it? When is it set? Is it
20s.
Okay.
20s. It's brutal colonial violence, and then retributive violence.
Hell yeah. Retributive violence.
I was oh my gosh, why are they? There's a woman, right at the beginning. I shouldn't tell you.
Yeah, don't tell me.
The violence is just.
Don't ruin it for me.
You don't expect to see the wounds land, the blows land, and the blood spurt. And in this movie, they show everything.
That's why I like practical effects.
It's the most expensive India movie ever made.
Dang,
yeah.
Son. Which one was that?
It's called RRR.
Okay, yeah, I saw you wrote a review. I didn't read it because
yeah, man.
I don't like to read reviews of
I
things
usually
I
don't
seen.
watch 3 hour movies in one shot either. It was cool.
Yeah, the 3 hour movie is it's gotta have some real substance to go 3 hours.
This one, it's got a lot of characters. Indian movies do. I'm trying to watch a 3 hour Chinese movie, the Battle on Lake Changjin. I forget the Chinese name, but anyway.
The really old one?
No, it's pretty new. It's
I'm thinking of Battle on Wolf Mountain.
This one is one of their modern war propagandas. It's so
Warriors.
It's cringy, but I can't get through it. I was like, okay, it's done, and I looked at the thing, and it's an hour and 45 minutes left. It's really long.
Reminds me of Dead Presidents, the movie that should have ended 3 times before it was all over.
Oh yeah.
That movie is
How long was that movie? The same.
A movie I think it was just slightly over 2 hours, but it was just there was so many points that it just could have ended and been a decent story, and it's just and then we kept going.
I was just thinking about that movie the other day. I don't know why.
It's such a weird movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back on the movie reviews.
Yeah, I haven't watched a movie since probably the last time we watched a movie together. Oh, that's not true. I did watch what is that called? Everything All at Once?
I've never heard of it.
It's a pretty good movie.
I started watching some Taiwanese shows.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. People are gonna be upset with me because it's it's the hot movie right now.
From where? American?
I think it's an American movie, but they speak Mandarin and they speak Cantonese in the movie.
I think. Did you mention it to me before?
Maybe. It's very
I heard the name, but it doesn't sound familiar.
It's very absurdist. It's crazy.
What is it about?
It's basically about multi-dimensional
time travel.
Not time travel, but traveling between dimensions, basically, and
that's really weird.
Trying to make sure that the whole universe isn't going to be destroyed. It's interesting. I thought it was good. I was very.
Why bother?
I was very. It's it's good. It's got like some of that like some of those like old like campy Hong Kong kung fu movie style stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I thought it was pretty well made. I enjoyed it. I would like to watch it again, and I should take notes. Just trying to make background noise for the pod.
No, I'm trying to just pour out this water. There's just stagnant water here.
Just get those little mosquito larvae all over your feet.
I'm trying to move my feet out of the way. I don't see any larvae, but
Hopefully not.
hopefully not.
I was gonna say I want to watch a movie about the Indian Rebellion in 1857.
Is there a movie about that?
I don't know. That's not you. But when you said that, I was hoping that movie was about that.
No, this movie's totally fictional. It's about two real people, but it's a fictional story of like, oh, if these two militants had been friends when they were kids. It's like corny and like very heart-filled, like a lot of Indian movies. The acting is very Indian.
I love it.
What if Mahatma Gandhi got a squad automatic weapon?
Well, this was about two real militants who both died fighting the British. So they're both like very violent people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying in a bad way. I mean, they were fighting for the independence of their country.
Yeah, fighting for freedom is generally something I can get behind. Yeah, that the 1857 rebellion. I might do one of the history pods about it. I'm writing one about Tiananmen right now for
gross.
for 6-4 when it comes up.
Just kidding.
Because the 1857 one was like part of the big reason was they had all these like conscripted Indian soldiers that they gave them these new rifles, and the cartridges for the rifle you had to like bite it off before you put it in the gun, and no one really knows for sure, but the allegations were that they had greased them with pig and beef fat, which is not good for Indians because the Hindus obviously aren't going to eat cattle products and the Muslims aren't going to eat pork, so they rebelled, and yeah, obviously the British like slaughtered a bunch of them because the British be like that. But it was interesting.
I think this movie is interesting too because it raises a lot of questions about the collaboration between ethnic Indians and the British during that time, and I really don't know a lot of the details, so I shouldn't say too much about something that I'm not well versed in, but it was kind of an interesting thing to bring up.
Yeah.
Because you can see in a lot of the battles, I don't know if it's deliberate, because I assume that it's hard for them to get like 1,000 white actor like extras in wherever it's filmed in like Telangana province in India.
Maybe
it's deliberate. Maybe the idea is basically to show that there were a lot of Indians.
There were definitely a lot of Indians that sided with the colonizers, but I mean, it's coercive. Because I mean, you see what happens with the ones that don't go along with the program. They get fucking slaughtered or heavily subjugated.
Well, a lot of these people are like, I mean, I don't think they're drafted. I think they're like volunteer because they're like some of them are in the officer corps and stuff.
That's interesting because there was, at least in government, basically, even after they did like some light reforms around the turn of the century to like allow more Indians in, it was still like 90% British in the government of India. So I wonder how much of that is a stretch because I don't know the exact makeup of those military
This is a very
units.
anti-colonial movie, so I'm saying maybe it's just because they couldn't get any extras that they were trying to make them look like Caucasian.
It could be, but I mean, historically speaking, there were a lot of them that worked within the British military. I'm just saying that I don't know that they were like fully willing participants. If they could have had their choice, I imagine most of them would have chosen independence.
I wonder, and I think it's an interesting thing to learn about and talk about.
Sure be.
And that's the end of the conversation.
Done.
Bookend. So what's happening in modern day?
Who knows anymore?
Lots of fun stuff. I wrote an article about the shooting in Texas. The absolutely impotent police down there.
That was like a week ago. That's old news.
It's still in the headlines because there keeps like more and more stuff keeps coming out.
Yeah, I wonder, because I hear a lot of mixed things about the police response thing. I heard like that the police basically stood outside, but then I heard somebody else, I think it was Governor Abbott was like, I can't believe the military, the media is making all these lies up about our beautiful police.
Well, he said it was horrible, but it could have been much worse. That was his statement. That's what Abbott said.
I hope he loses. I hope. I'm gonna not say anything else.
Yeah, I hope he loses more than there's. Let's say that.
Abbott is a real piece of work. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article about him that's supposed to come out around his birthday in November, talking about what a piece of trash he is for basically like raking in. I shouldn't say raking in. He was disabled in an accident and he got millions. He is a millionaire because of the insurance payouts. And whatever you may think about that, you should keep in mind that he has fought for years to make sure that nobody else gets payouts like
Tort
that.
reform.
Yeah, exactly.
Tort reform.
And he's like, no, that's not Hippocratic. I was hypocritical.
Asking him about his disability is anti-Hippocratic, though. All right. Keep going. Sorry.
I mean, he's a millionaire. He's a millionaire. Like, he's wealthier than most Americans will ever be because of his accident. And whether or not that's good or bad, that's not what I'm debating. What I'm debating is that he's fighting so that other people can't get those same benefits.
It's the hypocrisy.
Yeah. And he doesn't even sense it. He's like, no, this is not hypocritical at all. This is a normal thing. It's disgusting that people get this much money from insurance companies.
I'm gonna go sail around on my yacht for a while. Yeah.
Talk about how angry I am that these poor insurance companies keep getting shafted.
Poor working class insurance companies.
I should talk about Taiwan. That article was on Bloomberg. So there's an article on Bloomberg today basically saying that the Taiwanese insurance companies, who just assumed that the government would maintain its competence and keep trying to keep COVID out, were dead wrong, and that they sold insurance policies that pay out something like $3,000 if someone even contracts COVID.
Yeah.
And now basically the government's suggesting that just like the United States, probably 50 to 70% of the population is eventually going to get it. Yeah. And probably 30% of the population, being Taiwanese, bought those policies. They're going to either need a bailout, which means the government, even though they're trying to save the economy by opening up, is going to have to pay massive bailouts to keep the insurance industry, aka the financial industry, as they love calling it, afloat.
Yeah.
Either that, or a whole bunch of people are going to be scammed out of insurance that they bought, and they're going to rage against the government.
Yeah, well, they also, it's, yeah.
So either way,
insurance is such a scam in and of itself, honestly.
Either way, everyone's getting fucked.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, I'm still baffled by these calls for we had to save the economy that grew larger than it did in a fucking decade last year when the government was actually controlling COVID, like 6% plus growth.
Oh, you're talking about in Taiwan?
Yeah, in Taiwan.
Save the economy by doing exactly what the United States did and suffering minus 3% growth for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's really the ticket, is opening up and doing nothing. That's how you grow your economy, folks.
Well, I mean, you're really helping out the families of
the insurance companies,
toddlers and infants, because when they pass away, you have much more disposable income.
Yeah, they don't have to pay for those cram schools anymore.
Yeah, it's really progressive of the government to do abortions this late term. But
it's dark.
It's what they've decided, and yeah, I mean, we'll see. We might be on pod still when the numbers come out today, but
was 120 deaths yesterday?
I think so. Yeah,
we're getting basically almost to U.S. numbers, cause even though the population is 1/15 the size of the U.S.
Yeah.
So,
we'll see.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the numbers are probably slightly under for deaths. I think those are probably pretty accurate, but in terms of the numbers of people getting it, I think it's probably a little bit undercounted because people can't get tested. And I have spoken to numerous people who have either told me about people who have said this or have actually done it, which is they just test, even if they test positive on a quasi, like a rapid test, they just won't fucking report it.
Yeah, why would they?
Because it's like, okay, well, I could be locked down even though the government's not doing anything about it. Like, why would
you even bother if you can't get in? You call them, maybe let's say you're even a good citizen. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll call the government. They don't pick up the phone 3 times in a row, which I guarantee you they're not right now. Because I mean, Abby couldn't get through for days, right?
A long time, yeah. And then after that, they told her after she had tested negative for like a week, they told her she was going to have to lock down for 7 more days. And now they're doing this 0+7 nonsense. It's like, it's a bureaucratic nightmare.
They
And
just
yeah,
have no idea what they're
she
doing.
finally got through to them after like 10 days in quarantine when people weren't even supposed to be quarantining that long anymore. It's absurd.
So yeah, exactly. Why? So first, you can't get through it. And then second of all, if they're not even going to handle it properly, why would you even bother reporting it and making yourself more hassle? Like, so those numbers are totally fake. I mean, not totally fake. They're not like made up.
So
But
they're undercounted.
let's say they're vastly inaccurate, and that's by the admission of the government themselves, including like local governments around the country, basically saying that those numbers, the real numbers, are multiple fold higher than the ones that are being reported. Like, so it's not, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't check those numbers anyways.
I do. I post them every day. If you want to see them, go check them out on Twitter or Instagram, which I think also posts to Facebook stories.
I logged into Twitter the last couple days to respond because you're posting something that I wanted to like shit talk on. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I like don't use that platform. It is so enraging how like people basically just get on there like with the explicit purpose of making other people mad. I feel like that's the entire purpose of that website.
There's a ton of bots that are literally programmed to do that too. I've like recently was listening to an interview from a lady that was like, yeah, this like used to be my job, was create bots. And they're like, how do you make them like, so like, how do you make people engage with them? They're like, they'll just take whatever, basically they just write a script to read whatever you say and then just respond like, whatever you just said is fucking dumb. And then people get into arguments with these ethereal things, like these, they just don't exist. It's not real people. It's a bunch of code on a piece of, on a hard drive somewhere.
Hell
It's
yeah,
insane, man. But yeah, even the real people, to your point, yeah, they just go in there to argue. That's why I don't
Matt Gatz recently. Oof.
I don't argue with anyone. I will screenshot people's tweets, like powerful people, like average people. I don't give a fuck. Like people are dumb, whatever.
You mean like the WHO who
Right.
still says on their Twitter that COVID is not airborne? Fact. COVID's not airborne.
Yeah. So things like that, I will, like powerful organizations and government officials. Yes. Like I'm not going to get into pissing matches with like a guy named C7 with a 45 character number string behind his
temptation
Twitter,
is so high, though.
Twitter
I
handle.
just feel like it's better if I just don't log in.
That's fair for you. I don't have that urge. I've done it so many times where I get into like these long discussions that are like, you can tell it's like you think. There's been a few times where I felt like I was making progress, but it's always in bad faith. Like almost, I would say 99% of the time, these people are in bad faith. If I do have a discussion, it's like I'll be like, okay, like jump into DMs and we'll actually talk about this, because otherwise it's fucking performative, man.
That's all Twitter is.
If you're doing it in front of everyone else, it's just performative. It's stupid. It's idiotic. It's not worth your time.
Which is why Elon Musk has earned himself a new spot in Guantanamo.
Guantanamo 2022.
Does anyone fucking care now that he lost all his money?
I don't think so. I don't know. That's kind of out of the news cycle now.
Yeah, he lost what, like $75 billion or something like that in a week.
Good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole crypto market is in a bad way right now.
No, that has nothing to do with crypto. That's just Tesla, because they still can't fucking produce cars.
Yeah, I know that, but
Big surprise.
I feel like he's probably got a bunch of money tied up in crypto as well. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just dumped it all after doing his pump and dump schemes.
Let me read this. Tesla stock losses top $575 billion as, quote, investor patience wears thin with Elon Musk's Twitter circus show.
Get it.
SEC publishes letter asking Elon Musk to explain late Twitter filing. That's only like a month and a half late.
I'm surprised the SEC is doing anything. They don't seem to really care that much generally.
Yeah, big surprise.
The stock price does look like it's back up though. 0.73%. It's not like back up to where it was, but it's
I think there's gonna be a what the fuck do I know, man? I'm not gonna say shit. I don't know anything about the stock market anymore because it's not grounded in reality. So Anything that I say
Yeah.
would just be a wild feeling-based guess, just like the stock market itself.
Just like everyone talking about the stock market.
At least I admit it.
It's all speculative, yeah. It's all speculation.
I don't like. Sometimes I do, like in personal conversations, but on the podcast, I'll maintain a higher standard, and I won't.
I won't.
just spew nonsense unless I know at least something about it. And the stock prices, it's impossible to predict, so I won't say anything because it's not based on anything.
It's based on feelings, thoughts, and prayers. Man, this
COVID shit.
now it's like the big thing in the U.S.
monkeypox shit.
is all about
These
like
housing prices.
gun reform, and it's just I don't think anything's gonna happen.
Yeah, I was telling my mom the other day. She was like, "I can't believe the Republic." I'm like, "Wait a
The
second."
Republicans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I sympathize with the fact that they always have somebody to blame it on. It's always convenient. No matter what Congress it is, no matter what year it is, there's always like one or two people who you can conveniently blame it on. And now it's like the people who are against filibuster reform. Because if only the filibuster was reformed, Democrats could do anything they wanted. As if
Well,
reconciliation doesn't exist.
As if the Democrats would pass filibuster reform anyway. A bunch of them are not in favor of it.
But that's the point. That there's like two. They're saying there's only two that are holding it up.
Which I disagree with. If those two weren't there, it's someone else. It's been like this for
Harris,
decades.
the tiebreaker.
Yeah, it's been like this for decades. I did see that there's, I believe, one Buffalo GOP member. I think he's a senator from Buffalo. He said he would vote for gun reform, but like, what does that mean?
What do you, a senator? Well, I mean, you need without filibuster reform. Realistically, they're gonna filibuster until cloture's put in, and there's no way to get cloture with like a single. They need 60. Like it's not even close.
Oh, I lied anyway. It's not a senator. It's a congressperson.
Oh, so one out of the 535 people.
Well, I think it could probably pass in Congress, honestly.
You mean in the House?
Yeah, in the House. But yeah, the Senate, there's no way. There's no way. This is going to get filibustered. If it even got to 50 anyway. Which, I don't know. I imagine Manchion and Kristen movie theater probably wouldn't push for it.
I was watching Trump's response to this. I can't believe that, like, anybody buys this bullshit. This guy, he's like, oh, who is he talking? He was talking shit about Liz Cheney and like gun control and something. This is a guy who's like never shot a gun in his life. This is a guy.
I would love to see someone just hand him like a 357 and just be like, "Here, Donnie, go to town," and he just shoots it and fucking hits himself in the forehead.
He just put it right where it belongs. That guy is a fucking like Hollywood, Manhattanite Hollywood elite. Like both of the polar evils of the Republican world. A guy who literally fucked a porn star and then paid her off not to talk about it while he was cheating on his pregnant wife.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the GOP does like that. They just pretend like they don't.
Well, now they do. I would say like 20 years ago, this would have been outrageous. Maybe 30 years ago.
I don't know.
Now the GOP is now the party of Donald Trump. They're a party of Matt Gaetz's. They're a party of like sexual deviants who pretend that they're evangelical Christians and support gun rights, and that's basically all it is.
Yeah.
I've been watching Matt Gaetz. I got on his Twitter and saw the absolute horse shit that comes out of his mouth. Like, first of all, anyone who says that the Second Amendment is absolute, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, does that mean that state laws that restrict guns are unconstitutional? Does that mean that the ATF is a violation of the Constitution? Like, what the fuck do you mean?
A lot of Republicans would say yes.
Yeah, while they push for like increased penalties on gun offenders when they're black. Like,
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here. I don't believe that for a fucking second. You use all this rhetoric, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Matt Gaetz, by the way, when he talks about like abortion and like, oh, he was going off on like how anyone who supports gun rights is like an overeducated female. That dude is being like
You mean gun reform?
What did I say?
You said gun rights.
or whatever, gun reform. That dude is under investigation for pedophilia right now. Like, he shouldn't be making any comments about like women's education right now. He was like luring high school students and trafficking them across state lines for sex. Allegedly. That dude is a fucking creep.
He also was living with his like 17-year-old Filipino houseboy or something. There was some weird shit with that too.
He is a sexual deviant, just like Donald Trump is. But again, the Republicans are like...
You saw Madison Cawthorn came out and made all those statements about how he was getting invited to cocaine orgies. And then all these photos came out of him like with his shirt off, wearing like women's clothing and stuff. He was a congressman, thankfully, that just lost his primary from Missouri, actually. He was the youngest congressman I think ever. He was like 20, I think he was 25 or something when he got elected. He's 27 now. It's yeah, and there's also a video came out of like his cousin grabbing his dick, which was very weird.
Male or female cousin?
Male.
They're all sexual deviants. But
no,
the most
totally
hilarious thing is evangelicals will still vote for them under the idea that they're gonna make abortion illegal, even though California and like all these other states have just made it clear that they're going to retaliate by allowing citizens of those states to sue gun manufacturers, number one. But number two, the people will just go to other states to get abortions. Like, this is not the 1920s where people don't have cars and they got to travel on horse for 3 days to go get an abortion. You just take a Greyhound and do an abortion in another state. Like,
yeah, but people don't always have time for that. I mean, you're right. People that can afford it and have the time to do it, they will.
People who want abortions that badly will do it. So you're making it slightly harder. But is that why you voted for like a serial pedophile alleged serial pedophile, or you voted for a president who like fucks porn stars with while his wife is pregnant?
God works through imperfect people, Ari, and I think you don't realize that.
If you really believe that, if you really believe you're having an effect and you're like saving the country or doing God's way, while you literally make the country year after year more and more secular. Because America like has lost like 15% of its quote unquote Christian population in like 15 years. It's insane how quickly the country is secularizing.
Oh,
you have this,
I mean, look at my dad. He's gone from like not evangelical, like non-denominational, but like also kind of Southern Baptist pastor to like completely eschewing any sort of organized religion because of how toxic that shit is, man. It's and the embracing of Trump, I think, is especially funny because, kind of like you were alluding to, not only is he like a deviant sexually and a wife abuser, which came out in court claims, but anyway.
Wait, what did he do? I didn't hear about
that.
I want to hear all the dirt.
I forget which one of his wives. Maybe
Stormy.
Maybe that's his small three. That's what was it Mathers?
Ivana.
Maybe, I don't remember. One of his previous wives.
There's Ivana, Martha, and then Ivanka's his daughter. Who's the new Slavic one?
Evancula.
Evancula.
And then, anyway, one of them, I forget. One of them that
Melania.
One of his old wives.
The imported one or the American one?
I don't remember. Okay, I don't remember if he bought her through the mail or just with a bribe on the streets. But anyway, one of his wives, he had gotten hair plugs. He came home and she like made fun of how his head looked, because you look pretty funny after you get hair plugs. No shade at anyone getting hair plugs, but I say go bald gracefully.
I agree with that.
Women.
I would never
people are well. You got the good genes. You're not gonna go bald
for now.
But I hope in like 50 years when you're.
I hope I never go bald.
When you're 60 years old, that you look like a nice Bernie Sanders. But anyway, it came out in court proceedings that when she made fun of him, he ripped her hair out, a chunk of her hair out, and then raped her. Yeah, he's a fucking monster. But besides all that, what I was gonna say, he's also like a catty Broadway.
You want to go back to Slovenia?
That's well.
Shouldn't joke about.
Honestly,
that.
That's probably what he said. But again, this just shows that he's a fucking monster. But you also look at his old tweets, which I do occasionally, like before he was like in politics, and he'd be like, "Oh, the Met Gala, these people look like trash. They are dressed so shamefully, folks. Back when I was attending, everyone dressed nice. The men dressed in beautiful suits, big strong men. But now everyone looks like trash. It looks like a fashion week in the movie Zoolander. It's very derelict."
Did he really say that?
No, but he said things. He would just talk about how women were dressing like trashily, or like he's just talking about fashion and stuff.
Like you said,
which
he's
is
a catty bitch.
Which is the stuff that, yeah, exactly. Which is the stuff that, like, these GOP strong boy, big old boy, good old boy,
Bitch.
they claim to hate, but they love it when it's their big fluffy man.
Yeah, you tell Kellyanne.
You tell that Kellyanne. We shouldn't use only Southern voices because it's also like
Ohioans. Ugh.
yes, ugh. My aunt lives in Ohio. I should be nice.
It's just a joke, Ohioans. Come
We
on.
love all our people from all backgrounds as long as you're not a monster.
As long as you're not from Florida.
That's true. Florida should be sawed off Bugs Bunny cartoon style and let to drift into the ocean.
I mean, Florida doesn't have long for this earth anyway, so we don't have to do anything more to it.
That's true. Ben Shapiro says after it's flooded, you can sell your house, though. So that's good news.
You could sell that to the government bailouts.
We're going to start a new Atlantean underwater city in Florida. It's going to be very warm. The water will be boiling hot. It will be great, folks.
You should read Drowned World.
What is this, some fantasy novel?
It's a book by. Have you ever heard of Highrise?
Yes.
The old movie. The guy who wrote that, it was his first like real novel. I just finished it a couple weeks ago, about like the world. It's from like 1962, but it's basically like if the world, like climate change flooded the world. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Like there are still like people living in the north, but the idea is that like, I don't know. You can read it. It's very
Basically Waterworld.
It's very interesting because it's about like people who basically don't want to like live in the poles there. They want to like embrace the jungle and get back into the water swollen tropical heat. You want to like live amidst the sun.
I do like the sun.
I like this book. It's very symbolically rich. I like it a lot. Some of the words he uses in like 60s English, British English are weird.
Like tallywhacker?
Like I had to look up words fairly often. Not because they're just like rare words. I forget a couple of them. I had them sitting in my dictionary still because I was like, what are these words? They're just very uncommon in like modern speech. You'll never see them unless you're reading 1960s books.
It's like
from the UK.
1960s British slang.
It's not even slang. Let's see if I can find one. I had a good word. Oh, gimcrack.
Gimcrack.
Yeah. The adjective, showy but cheap or badly made. I've never heard that word in my life.
Interesting. The more you know, folks.
The more you know. Anyway, there's a lot of words like that. A lot of weird words.
I like words. I like weird words.
I got the best words, folks.
My words are the
Gimcrack.
biggest, the best. I actually came up with the word gimcrack. Now the fake lying news media tries to cover it up. There was just a bunch of primaries in the U.S.
Oh yeah, I saw.
I think some of them went better than people expected, but
Trump expected.
looks. I wonder if Dr. Oz is gonna win.
Oh, it's not out yet.
It might be out now, but it was close last I saw. I mean, I don't really care. Obviously, I want him to lose, but it is fun to see him like talk about how immigrants are bad with a name like his.
Mehmet.
Yeah, Mehmet Oz. Yeah. Well,
You were saying he's Turkish,
what do you
right?
expect from a fucking Gulenist?
Yeah, we were talking
I'm just
about this.
kidding.
I assumed
yeah,
he was
is
Persian.
He is Turkish.
I don't know why. He just looks Persian.
Ari's really getting into phrenology lately, and that's how he made that guess. You need to study more, Ari. Just kidding. Phrenology's dumb, and Ari doesn't believe in it.
No. But I do believe I'm fairly good at picking out, not 100%, but like, I'm okay at picking out ethnicities. I'll say I'm okay. That's fair.
I would say, you probably also, you've probably traveled more than like most Americans, but I feel like
Almost certainly.
most Americans, well, I would say maybe even a large amount of Americans haven't even left America.
That's a fact.
But
More than half.
there you go. I hadn't until I came to Taiwan.
You're part of the problem.
I was part of the problem, being poor, working all the time. But what I was gonna say is that
You just gotta get post-capitalist like me.
yeah, hitchhike.
I mean, you're basically post-capitalist in this house already.
This house is very post-capitalist. Yeah, I agree. I'm well on my way.
My rent in this house is lower than the combined rents of this and the other place before. So.
Is it?
Is it? No, it's the same. It's exactly the same.
Okay, there you go.
Wait, is it 4K? No, it's slightly more expensive. 250 Taiwan dollars a month more expensive.
Okay, so negligible.
Yeah, but I like never go out to eat or go out to drink or do anything or buy gas. So
Or have a life. Yeah, I basically don't have a life.
I mean, I get out of the house all the time. I'm constantly taking Poppy on his little walks and stuff, but I don't really need to spend money on anything
Yeah, it's nice.
except food.
Especially now that we've been all online, I basically buy tea and sometimes buy like a
Give me those cups.
breakfast, Sammy. Oh, I got a stack for you, bud.
I need to get more soil.
I need to probably take a couple of them and plant some of my. That's the other thing is we're slowly becoming sustainable with our sustainable gardens.
Yeah, except for all the soil that we buy off like online shopping.
I mean, I don't buy it online. I usually go to the store, but
I think it's more expensive. How much is a sack of soil?
I don't know.
A big old sack.
The big ones are, I want to say, 100 and something.
Yeah, it's more expensive. If you buy it online and get it like delivered by truck, it's cheaper.
Yeah, but then you're using more fossil fuels, you know.
You don't think there's a truck delivering it to the hardware store?
There is, but they're delivering a lot of things all at once. I guess that's
Buy soil in bulk.
I guess that's true if you're buying it online.
Olivia bought Momo. She bought like 3-4 sacks, remember?
Yeah.
You do that, that's efficient.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't know. I've been trying to order less stuff offline, but
Soil.
I still do it every once in a
Soil
while.
the earth.
So I'm trying to support my local businesses. I think that's important.
That business sucks, man. They have like terrible attitude. Their rule is you have to.
Oh yeah, the return policy is trash.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That return policy is trash.
You have to literally return it within 24 hours. The same day only, though. Like
they told me weeks though.
They told me
me a week.
No, they told me 24. I tried to return a screw or like a drain stop or something that was like 10 NT. They're like, you have to. I'm like, I bought it yesterday, like within 24 hours. They're like, no, it's actually the next day. So
Same day.
Even though it's 24 hours, it doesn't count.
We reset the system at midnight.
That's what they told me. I'm like, you're gonna make me go buy something like and not return me 30 US cents. Like I'm poor right now. You think I'm returning this like? You think I rode my bicycle here to return a 30-cent like drain stopper because it's fun for me?
Well,
They're like, we don't care.
This is where we get into
Burn in hell, poor person.
This is where we get into the ethics of shoplifting, Ari. And
I bought a big pack of matches and then lit them all on the gasoline pool at the back of the store. That's a joke, folks.
Oh man, I do think that soon the U.S. is going to have a conversation about the ethics of property destruction, because I think it's going to happen a
Good
lot.
luck with that, bud.
Well, the right is going to have to, because they're all about property destruction's bad. We hate property destruction, but like they never talk about how like the abortion clinics are getting firebombed and shit. So I think it's going to get bad, honestly.
Why do you think this is going to make it worse? There's going to be less abortion clinics.
There might be less, maybe, but I don't know. It's like brought it back into the forefront of people's minds. I feel.
Has
like.
it?
I think so. Because I see.
I feel like housing prices might, but why would abortion? I feel like that's a weird association.
Housing prices. That's like, I think for most people, if they either own a house or they're resigned to the fact that they're never going to own one.
Well, the housing sales have collapsed this month, so this might be the beginning of a new crash.
Yeah, I wonder if there'll be a crash. There's definitely going to be a crash in people buying them, but
Well, that will mean that there's a crash in prices, bud, because that's how supply and demand works.
maybe they could just sit on them though. Because it's a lot of the people buying them up are these like companies like BlackRock.
There's always going to be people that need to sell their houses. They're getting divorced, or they're like somebody dies and they don't want the house anymore. Like when that happens and nobody's buying, and people want to sell them, they're going to have to start dropping the prices. Like I agree with you that when the taxes are that low, like in Taiwan, people can sit on them, but that's not the case in America. The taxes are low, but they're not obscenely low. A lot of people cannot afford to just pay taxes, especially on higher value property.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that it might just be these like giant corporations that buy them up instead and just own all of them and sit on them until whatever.
You're saying
they're
going to
sell them. I'm not saying that's for sure. I'm just saying it could happen.
They won't buy them at above market rates though, and that's the problem. And it's gonna.
Yeah, they'll sit on them until the people inevitably drop the price, and then they'll buy them up.
The question is because a lot of this is based on them. It's based on the market in general. It's based on feeling. If they feel like the market is capped out, if it can't get any higher, then they're certainly not going to keep paying higher prices, which means that the pricing might actually collapse.
It should. It obviously needs to.
I'm optimistic.
Insane. I would like to be optimistic, so I'm going to try to do the same, but we'll see. I don't know. It's hard for me to be super optimistic about the
watching crypto
futures
and
of America.
stocks crash, man. It's like, why wouldn't housing crash? Like nothing's untouchable. It's all feelings.
It's true. They might just start giving out
Feelings over facts equals finance.
They might just start giving out a bunch of loans again, a bunch of like bunk housing loans. We can just do 2008 over
They just
again.
jacked up interest rates to stop inflation, so they can't do that. I mean, that's the whole point of them jacking up interest rates, which is one of the reasons maybe why the housing prices might collapse. But we'll see.
We'll see.
But yeah, that's gonna strangle the finance industry right now with those higher interest rates.
Good. The finance industry should be smothered.
Oh, you mean the insurance industry?
Abolish private insurance, folks.
Yeah, I would be on board with that.
So,
I mean, it is the idea of insurance is that it's supposed to be a public good. So why do we allow companies to like make risky bets and then take advantage of it?
because the politicians have to keep the people that give them bribes happy. That's.
By the way, I saw an ad recently just showing how many rich people there are in Taiwan profiting off the housing boom here. They're like, this was a U.S. dollar account. I think it's through the post office. I keep getting emails about it because I have a post office account. They're like,
Right.
only through, what is it? 10K? Yeah, I think only 10,000 U.S. dollars, which is an obscene amount of money for most people. Is it 10,000 or 100,000? I can't remember. Only this obscene amount of money. And you can lock in 1.1% interest forever. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because the U.S. dollar, by the way, has
less than a CD.
It's like 7.6% interest. Sorry, inflation the last month.
Yeah. So you can just watch your money be devalued in front of your eyes.
And they're like, this is the best deal, and you'll lock it in for the rest of your life if you're already rich and have like 10,000 U.S. dollars of expendable income that's not occupying some other investment.
Yeah, as if you wouldn't just play the stock market if you had that much money.
Well,
just gamble it all away.
We're all gambling, bud. That's why people should just start buying up gold. Just kidding. Don't do that. The gold is all mine. Don't drive up the prices yet. Wait for me to buy them up and then buy up gold.
Yes, wait for us to do our pump and dump on gold.
JoeBogan.com is still available.
Bogan.
Speaking of buying up.
Joseph Bogan. I still periodically go over. I haven't listened to his pod in probably 3-4 months now. I always periodically go over there and look, and I'm always constantly disappointed. It's always so bad.
I think that smart people are just like unwilling to go on his pod anymore, so he just gets like Ari Shafir on every other week.
I think he also is maybe because of that. Maybe it's like it's a perpetuating cycle, but like I think he also is probably not inviting as many of those people that are going to give him pushback.
I wonder. I really wonder, because he used to have a lot of people who he disagreed with, and it was very interesting to listen to. It's not only listening to him disagree with people. It's listening to people who have like original ideas rather than people who you already know agree with Joe Rogan and who are, by the way, not intellectuals, because most of his conversations are with not, let's just say, not intellectuals. They're people who like have very interesting stories about bow hunting or beating the shit out of somebody else, and that's it. That's all they have going for them, basically. They don't really have new ideas about the world.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's interesting to
Sometimes
listen,
it is,
listen
but,
to
like,
two men with CTE and have high levels of artificial testosterone in their body talk about smashing faces.
I totally agree, but not every week, three times a week.
Once a year, I would say.
Yeah, and like when he had a good mix of people, he would have astrophysicists and like that's the only thing I can think of right now. He would have scientists. He would have politicians from both sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
He would have people who are into extreme sports that had nothing to do with fighting, and now it's not restaurateurs. It's nothing. It's like far right political figures, libertarian political figures, fighters, and comedians. That's it. That's literally it.
Yeah.
No scientists anymore, except scientists who are already far right political figures like fucking Joe Weinstein. Oh, is it Joe Weinstein? I forget his name.
Weinstein.
Whatever. That whole family is trash. That's basically it. That's like the only scientist they'll invite on. He had that far right business marketing guy on. But other than that, it's all comedians and fighters. It frustrates the shit out of me, man.
Also, you have, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of like IDW type people, like the
What does that
Weinstein,
stand for?
intellectual dark web,
Oh.
like the Weinstein brothers or Ben Shabibo or Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, I don't know if he's intellectual dark web. I think like he's just like the Weinsteins. I don't know if you can call them intellectuals when they've basically disavowed academia and tried to do like online pump and dump scams like having to do with education.
Well, the reason that we actually left academia is because we were forced out and because
Well,
they
the
weren't...
reason Jordan Peterson left is because he's a fucking painkiller addict.
Benzo boy. Well,
Was it benzos or painkillers?
I think it was Benzos. but
Okay, fine. He's a downer addict.
He, yeah, he's. I
He
mean,
and his daughter.
he also, I think, has serious constipation problems with that all meat diet.
It's probably exacerbated by the fact that he keeps taking downers all the time.
Yeah, pills generally aren't good for your for your poop
What a
cycles.
clown.
No fiber and like heavy doses of barbiturates is not the best way to.
I don't even think you can get barbiturates. Is he really taking barbiturates?
I don't know. I'm speaking a little bit out of pocket right now. to be completely honest.
Benzodiazepines, they still prescribe frequently. I was surprised here in Taiwan it's pretty bad. Like Olivia had some. I'm like, do you know what this is? I'm like, I literally have like 2 friends who died mixing this in alcohol, and it's not an exaggeration.
That's nuts.
This exact pill. She's like, oh.
They hand out pills like candy here.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I never go to the doctor, but like,
Shit, what's the point?
I have. Well, I don't want to get COVID. I have.
Just joking.
We have a mutual friend who he told me like sometimes he'll just go to the doctor and be like, I have trouble sleeping, and they'll just give him all kinds of crazy medications.
Yeah.
Like things that like people like get and sell in the United States. He said he doesn't take them. He said it's kind of like a challenge for him to see if he can get different kinds of medication. But
No comment.
Anyway, I'm not saying that's
weird challenge.
I'm not saying that's a good idea. I think it's probably better than like getting and then abusing those. But in any case, be very careful about the medications that you put in your bodies. Of course, if you need them, I think that's good. I'm glad they're here for people that need them.
I wish they would be more careful with them, but I think
Certainly.
just like everywhere, the only people who have liability is poor people.
Well, they don't have liability because they'll just overdose, and then who cares? Like they're not gonna
doctors.
They're not gonna be able to afford a lawyer to like go sue those doctors.
That's what I mean. So I'm saying the doctors don't have any liability when they I don't want to say illegitimately, but let's say loosely prescribe things that they shouldn't be prescribing.
Yeah. Well,
Like benzodiazepines, like Adderall. I've heard Adderall's easy to come by. I've never been prescribed any of these because I, like you, also fear doctors. I'm just kidding. I'll go to the doctor. But I
yeah.
would say the doctors in Taiwan are of even poorer quality than the United States on average. There are some very good
I don't
doctors. That's
know.
not to say that Taiwanese doctors are bad, but there are a lot of very, very old doctors whose education, I would say, has long elapsed and whose attitudes are very loose. There are some fantastic doctors, better than I've had in America.
I was gonna say my local doctor in America was like an 85-year-old man who basically thought that you should like take a salt tablet if you broke your leg.
I'm not saying American doctors are good, but what I think
Well,
though
the
is
other
that
thing about Taiwan is you can actually see the fucking doctor.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that the fear of malpractice in America has made doctors a lot more careful
Yeah,
about
that's
what they
probably
do.
true.
And I'm not saying that's good, because now what they've done is, like you said, they've just replaced them with PAs, so that you can't sue them for malpractice if you never actually see a real doctor.
me, you didn't see me. Yeah.
Be like, well, you're the one who opted to see the PA instead of the real doctor, so you could have zero savings.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
you wouldn't have to wait 3 months for my once annual visit to the office.
I just got back from Bermuda. Yeah.
If you spent so much time in Bermuda, how did you sign off on those PA sheets? American medicine is a giant scam. All I know is that
true.
in Taiwan, some doctors are a little bit loosey-goosey. Let's just say that. But in America, we have that problem too.
Yeah, I think it's a problem of this kind of deification to some degree of doctors and viewing them as like more than just what they are, which is just a fallible human like everyone else.
If that's the case, then why do we need to see them so much? I think the bigger problem is that we allow them, just like a lot of industries, to self-regulate, and that's
That's right. Well, and yeah, because once they get out of medical school, again, this is painting with a very broad brush, so it doesn't apply to all doctors. But you know, some of them get out and then they just stop learning. They stop like
or they like half-ass learn, like the AMA approved specialty courses.
Yeah, there you go.
Where they spend 6 hours learning a totally new specialty that they should have spent 6 years in residency doing. Since we subsidize that residencies.
Yeah, and honestly, it should be free, but.
You mean medical education?
Yeah.
I don't think they probably need as much medical education as they get, considering that the quality when they come out is still, I would say, not significantly higher than other countries. Especially considering that a lot of them do not practice in the field in which they conducted their residency, which is another problem, that they're just like, they can do whatever residency they want. It's one thing if you're like practicing at Harvard. Yeah, you probably need to practice in the residency you trained under, but like
Right.
you could do like a GP residency and then go practice plastic surgery with minimal training. And yeah, and then what the fuck is the point then of us like subsidizing like 15 years of medical education and then you doing something that you have very little training in?
Well, yeah.
Basically, like,
I honestly think we need to get away from the idea of, like, I think the university space is very good, but I think it's more and more, at least in terms of like actual applicability to your job, like less and less needed. Like most of the things you just kind of can learn on the job.
yeah, like medicine.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
I mean, obviously,
I don't know if I agree with you.
I'm stretching a little bit as well, but like, yeah, you should do some school, but I think a lot of it should be like shadowing, on the job training. Like, yeah, you're for things like studies and like how the brain works, you're not going to learn that on the job. But like in terms of like the day-to-day stuff, yeah, most of it's going to be stuff that you're going to learn.
I agree with you in the sense that most jobs don't require anything that you learn in university. I still think that it has value in terms of making people better, more well-rounded. And I think that once you start mixing on-the-job training and education, you water down the process of getting a well-rounded education, and you basically invite corruption, which is things like internships, which is, in my opinion, slave labor. Like unpaid internships.
Internships should be abolished.
Which is what these turn into, essentially.
Well, that's why I'm obviously not in favor of that. But
you're like, oh yeah, you need to shadow a doctor unpaid for 6 months, and that's in lieu of taking like a training course. The training course could be better and could teach you more applicable skills, and if you don't need it, you don't need it. But saying that someone needs to work unpaid, like if they can get the training on the job, then they should be hiring entry-level people to do that instead of forcing people to do it for free as part of their quote-unquote education. That's what I think.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah, I'm definitely not calling for like unpaid internships, but I think that you should be like inside of these like hospitals and things like that more, doing things with your hands.
What are you talking about? Doctors?
Well, honestly, I think a lot of industries in general, but I do
Give me some
agree.
examples, because I think it wildly varies.
Teaching, but
Okay.
teaching, to be fair, they do. I mean, most
They're practicum, right?
most require you to teach for at least one semester.
And the nice thing for those is they can't exploit you because you're teaching in a public school.
Yeah.
It's not like a mechanic or something like that, or like a nurse where you're gonna go work for a private company and do free work for them in this internship or quote on the job training.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing free work ever. That's for sure. That's
For teaching, I totally agree.
I think it applies to a lot of stuff.
I'd say most jobs right now, honestly, in like the modern economy, most people work in offices doing menial, kind of like brainless tasks that don't require a college degree.
That's what I'm saying. You can just learn all that on the job. Like
Then
why do you need to get a bachelor's for that?
You don't.
I think like I
don't,
said,
actually.
holy moly, those pigeons are going nuts. But like I was saying, I do think there is something to be said about the college experience, so to speak.
I like that voice.
But just like, this sort of like, because like I know for me, it was like interesting to like meet so many people from like different countries. Growing up in like rural ass fucking Nebraska and Missouri most of my life, it was interesting to get people from different countries, from different backgrounds, even within the United States, with different perspectives on things, and like have debates and fucking talks and stuff. And I don't know that that's like the normal college experience, but it was good. It was good for me.
I don't think it is.
Maybe it's not.
I think it's mostly drinking.
Binge drinking.
Mostly drinking and cheating.
Yeah, there was a lot of cheating. I mean, there was a lot of shit students, but it was also good for my ego, because then I felt really smart when I just skimmed the reading and I could actually answer questions and no one else in class could answer questions. So I think it was very beneficial for me. I paid way too much money for it, but it was overall a good experience aside from the fiscal aspect.
How much did you pay tuition? You were in state, right?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but I did just look. For it goes up like every year, to be fair, but I looked because I was talking about how expensive American University is with one of my Taiwanese students, and right now it's like $16K just for tuition. Yeah.
A semester. Yeah, but I mean,
That's
when you
right.
were a student, it's the same. I think I went to ASU. I think it's probably about the same right now, maybe something similar. When I went, it was like, I think 2,800,
Yeah,
which is why I
was
paid
more
for
than
my
that.
school.
Mine was far more than that, but
Why? You went to a state university too.
It's the flagship university for the whole state of Missouri.
What was it, like 6K
I think it was at least 8.
for a semester? You're paying 16 a year. That's insane.
Yeah, it's expensive, man.
Yeah, but why is it so much more expensive? Arizona is not a state that funds education particularly well. And ours was, when I was at community college, because I did my first year and a half there, because
That was smart.
my parents refused to pay, and I got a $1,000 a semester scholarship on my $1,400 semester tuition. So
Yeah, that is one thing I kind of wish I would have done, was go to community college first for the first 2 years or so.
I can tell you, I also felt like a huge ego boost, because community college is filled with a lot of people who either want 2-year degrees or aren't sure that they even want to go to university.
Right.
So if you're like a serious student and you want to learn, you'll stand out quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I did that in the history department of the flagship university, because I'm in
Flagship university is state of Missouri.
That's right, buddy.
because like I'm in these like 3,000 level 3,000 level classes.
Does that mean second or third year? Because it's different.
Yeah, basically, for like these history, and like everyone in the business department has to take like a 2,000 or 3,000 level class or whatever. So I'd just be in there with like a bunch of like Greek people, not Greek as in actually from Greece.
Oh, I
Greek as in. I'm just in there.
Like, why were there so many Greek people at your school?
It's just all my classes are just filled with euros. I mean the food, not the people. This is getting confusing. People in fraternities and sororities, They would just.
talking about Europeans.
I was talking about gyros, the food, the wonderful, delicious Greek food.
It's pronounced gyro, Jordan.
We call these gyros. If you look through it, it's a gyroscope.
So anyway, just suffice it to say, they were not the most diligent students, and neither was I because I was working 2 jobs, 40 hours a week.
It wasn't their native language.
That's right. That's right. We had to translate a lot of stuff for them.
Their native language was Bud Light.
Yeah, they only understood.
Coors Light.
They only understood. Yeah, shotgun and a Coors Light and being very friendly with their fellow sorority brothers.
I know nothing about that.
I
Having gone to community college and then transferred in for 3 semesters to finish my degree.
My university had a huge Greek population. Again,
You're confusing me with all that.
fraternity and
Yeah,
sororities.
you should just say
All right.
that.
F and S.
It's offensive to Greek people.
Yeah, it really is, and it should be. And I apologize to all our Greek listeners. That is not my intention. It's just what everyone calls it there. So that's what I'm used to calling it. But it was a bit of a nightmare. We almost got in like multiple fights just walking around campus because they would be drunk as shit, and I didn't drink at all at the time, and so they would just like talk so much shit.
Yeah, that's everywhere. Everywhere where there's like 20-year-olds drinking.
Yeah, that's true.
There's like an alley, not an alley, like a big street of bars behind the university. And this was a huge university I went to. And I remember they used to have like cavalry police to like break
yeah.
up the fights and stuff like that. These big fights.
Yeah,
I don't know now.
I've always wondered about those horse riding police. That just seems like a bad idea.
Why?
They used to do that when I lived in Omaha. Well, one, because I'm not really sure about the ethics of riding an animal, but the second being, it just seems dangerous. Horses are massive animals, man.
They used to scare people.
Well, yeah, it's an intimidation
That's the
tactic.
police's
I
job,
under-
Jordan.
Yeah, that's right. It's to stand outside school shootings and to scare normal citizens.
So is that what happened? I don't know the details.
Yeah.
Is that exactly
I
what
wrote
happened?
an article about it, and like
I read it, but I don't think you said anything about that, did you?
I said they stood outside. They stood outside for about 45 minutes because they were scared. They were very scared. Which is
that really what
interesting
happened?
because if they're really scared when like a poor person or a person of color is around, they just think that their cell phone is a gun and they gun them down. But when this person actually had 2 AR-15s, AR, RA stands for assault rifle, right? There's a lot of people that are, if we have any gun listeners, they just got very mad.
I thought it stood for anal retentive.
It stands for Armalite, actually. But anyway, I'm just.
Does it?
Yeah, I'm just being silly. Because you'll see liberals online, they'll be like, "We need to ban assault rifles," and because assault rifles, AR stands for assault rifle, and it's like, no, it actually fucking doesn't.
Why do they even say that?
Because-
What difference does it make that AR stands
Because
for assault
they
rifle?
want to ban assault rifles, and
But they don't have to make the point that even if it were true, they don't. Why? How does making that?
I'm asking why people make stupid, idiotic, untrue points on Twitter is not something we should get ourselves into right now. But anyway, so yeah, like
You should get off that. Your mental health will be so.
I
much
don't
higher.
spend that much time on there, to be completely honest.
Just opening it and
I've been
seeing the
I've been
things that are
doing
on there.
well. I very heavily curate the things that I follow, but and then I also don't go on there very much.
It's like working in like a. Working in I don't know what I was gonna say. Maybe like a battlefield or like a. What's the word? A brothel or something. And then you don't want to like see the bad things happening, so it's like you're around terrible things, but you make sure that you don't see them.
I just walk around with my horse blinders and my headphones on. La 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 la.
It's a good way to get shot.
Not at a brothel. Possibly. But yeah, anyway, back to the point I was talking about.
Metaphorically.
Is that they just basically sat outside for 45 minutes and put a bunch of the parents in handcuffs because the parents were saying, if you're not going to do anything, we're going to rush in. and so they started detaining parents.
Yeah, I can tell you if I was a parent, I wouldn't be like telling the cops that. I would just be going.
Well,
in.
I don't think they
What are the
were.
cops
I
gonna
don't
do,
think
shoot
they.
the parents?
Well, they kept yelling at.
New school shooter.
They kept yelling at the. Yeah, exactly. They probably would have just shot all the parents, but cops do prefer to shoot people in the back.
He was resisting arrest.
Yeah. Well, I think the parents kept yelling at them to go in and do something, while they were literally just like listening to their children be slaughtered. And then they like got in a group and were talking about it and like moving towards it, and so the cops started like putting handcuffs on them.
There were probably more parents than cops.
Yeah, I think there were probably a lot of parents that just were like in complete shock, so they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I think that like all the cops there honestly should probably like, I don't know what kind of consequences they should face, but let's just say they should face consequences for their actions.
Dereliction of duty, they shouldn't be cops, that's for sure.
That's 100% true.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
As Donald Trump says, we just need more guns.
We just need more guns. Arm the teachers. Ted Cruz came out and said,
I think we should only have one door on all of the
I
schools.
saw that. I think I saw it in your article.
you probably did, yeah, which is
It's fire hazard. Like,
yeah, and or even aside from that, then what do? You wait until the school day is over, or you start a fire and then everyone runs out the same exit and you just shoot fucking fish in a barrel? Like, it's just idiotic. And he would say like, well, you put like doors that you can only open outwards, but it's like you run into the same problem of them
Somebody
not
just
being locked or knocking them
a
down.
student just knocks on it. You don't think like a 6-year-old hears somebody knocking at a door, they're just gonna open it to see?
Yeah, exactly. It's preposterous. But I think really what the Republicans want is for us to just we just need to put bars on the window. We need to have entrances and exits that are guarded by security guards with metal detectors, and we need to have every group of students escorted by an armed guard. And we need to turn these schools into prisons. They can wear like striped uniforms.
I believe
and
Texas
things like that.
they don't even have AC in like 2/3 of their schools or something like that. Like, or maybe it's a third. A significant number of their schools don't even have AC units. How the fuck do they think they're gonna afford all these armed guards and shit?
They can barely keep the power on.
What it's going to really be is they just want to change the subject, come up with a whole bunch of non sequiturs to distract us, and then do nothing.
Yeah, stop politicizing it, Ari.
Yeah.
Stop politicizing the murder of children. There was just a story that came out of that school. There was like a 10-year-old girl that rubbed one of her friends' blood all over her and then played dead so she wouldn't get killed. Like, that's some shit you read about in like fucking World War I or like Vietnam. Like, that's not some shit that should be happening in a fucking school, an elementary school.
This is not the first elementary school shooting. This is not.
Yeah, no,
this
not
is
at
like,
all.
The Friday before that was a Monday shooting, right? The Friday before that, there were like three different school
Yeah,
shootings.
those graduations, yeah.
It's like, give me a break. Let's stop talking. If you're still not going to do anything, let's just stop talking about it. And by the way, the media is complicit in this. Like,
Absolutely.
it's always rage and horror, and then not doing anything. Like, you're the ones who get these people elected.
They also play the both sides. Should we do nothing? Should we make one door, or should we actually do reforms that have shown to work?
Yeah, and then they like quote Marjorie Taylor Greene's nonsense on Twitter and call that an article.
Yeah.
As if like the people reading that, like, that's gonna help anyone in the country rather than just like clickbait for frustrated people. That's
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, they're too worried about this access media. I mean, they're too worried about they have to maintain access with these people instead of holding them accountable. They're stenographers for rich and powerful elites as opposed to actual fucking journalists. But I don't know. I agree with you. I don't know what to expect. I like I said in the article, I think people need to turn this like sadness and pain.
Turn that frown upside down. Hopes and prayers.
Turn it outward. Turn it outward. I saw Ted Cruz getting harassed in a restaurant, which I called for in the article, and I hope that shit continues day and night for the rest of that fucking ghoul's life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Agree
those
with
people should never, ever, ever know a second of peace. They should live constantly in.
The problem is they don't care, man. Like, so he goes to another town hall meeting like once every 3 years until he retires.
I mean, I would say occupy his fucking front lawn.
And then they just pass a new amendment, and then the Supreme Court. I mean, I think that the Supreme Court is going to be forced to overturn that.
I hope they are, but
I doubt that they'll even take it at this point.
They may not.
Because they're too busy with abortion.
They may not, but it depends what
they're too busy moving abortion to other states.
Depends what federal court sees it first. But Yeah, we'll see on that. The other thing is, another discussion I think Americans are going to have to start having is the ethics and efficacy of doing illegal shit, like breaking laws that are unjust, like saying that they're going to curb your First Amendment rights for standing out in front of a senator's house. People may have to start. I mean, I'm not encouraging people to get arrested because jail is a horrible place in America, but I don't know. Sometimes you have to do, in my opinion, illegal shit, and I'm not encouraging people to do it. But I think that history has shown us that sometimes you have to do shit that's going to get you arrested to actually make change.
If you're talking about, standing up for free speech rights, I totally agree. If you're talking about property destruction, I'm not sure how effective that would be.
I'm not sure either.
Because I feel like it would just invite a bigger crackdown than they say far-left terrorists. Or
I think you're generally right. That's why I don't know. Obviously, I would never encourage violence against people, except in self-defense. But property damage, I wouldn't
like
encourage
if someone
it.
comes at you with a skateboard, you'll let your AR rip.
That's right. Exactly. Open fire.
He came in with a skateboard, Jordan. A skateboard.
Those trucks are made of metal, boys and girls. They could do some serious damage to my cranial bone.
Oh, Joe Rogan. Sorry, keep going.
I just don't care that much about property destruction. Obviously, when it's like an average everyday shop owner, I feel bad for that person.
That's why we have insurance.
But I mean,
that doesn't pay out.
Exactly, that's the problem. But yeah, like people crying about the looting of like a Kmart and the Molotoving of a police station. I don't really give a fuck.
Well, Molotoving, let's just be honest. That's a little bit more. If nobody's in the police station, it's one thing. If somebody's in there, that could cause serious bodily harm.
It's dangerous.
And we have to.
I'm not encouraging. I'm not
violence.
encouraging it. I want to make this clear. I'm just saying, if no one gets hurt, I don't really care that much.
But you should care that they make sure that nobody gets hurt. I feel like
certainly.
Certainly.
I think if people are doing it like willy nilly, just like burning shit down, it's very dangerous. It's
As someone who loves fire, we have to be very careful. Jordan is not encouraging property destruction. He's just questioning whether.
I'm just saying.
You speak for yourself.
I'm just saying it doesn't really upset me that much.
Okay, it doesn't upset him, but we're certainly not encouraging.
I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying you should. You definitely shouldn't because you might get arrested.
It just wouldn't upset Jordan.
I just don't. I'm not gonna cry crocodile tears about it.
I have to say, I'm not. As horrible as it is, I'm not surprised that a lot of people are saying they're not upset over the shooting in the same way, that it's just like they've gotten used to it. Like, that it's just like, oh, an elementary school was shot up. Like, is that supposed to surprise me?
They're learning to live with mass death.
Learning to live with mass death. Yeah. Well, that's the society that we want, Afghanistan.
Yeah, well,
Boko Haram style.
I mean, I just hope we can hurry up the pace and just become Libya already. Like open air slave markets, libertarian paradise. That's what Americans really want.
I don't think that's accurate. I think Afghanistan is a better metaphor because I think a lot of people, if they got their way, they would prefer it to be a theocratic, like religious terrorist state, more or less.
Led mostly by localized warlords.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Exactly. Like semi-libertarian,
little militias.
Yeah. Local militias, local rule, but you always have to maintain the rule of religion over everything. And women have low social status. Yeah, of course, there's no abortion.
No, you can't.
Because
I mean,
a woman would never dare to get pregnant without her husband's consent.
Well, and if she does, she obviously needs to give it to the rich and powerful people. Well, she needs to have the baby first, of course, and then give it to some rich, powerful elites that really want to adopt, so they can raise them into this theocracy to be a good little children. And then, yes, she should be stoned to death.
Well, the problem, and the reason that this happens in America is that women are having sex out of wedlock.
They're getting uppity.
Because if it really was like Afghanistan, a woman would never be able to have sex out of wedlock, much less leave the house by herself.
That's true. She should be accompanied at all times by a male family member.
Yeah, so that's why I think America, like the ideal would be like an evangelical Afghanistan, more or less.
Well, I would definitely characterize
the ideal for evangelicals,
the GOP and their ilk as American Taliban for sure.
And I think for the American quote-unquote left, the idea would be Singapore. Like a well-functioning authoritarian state where
It's super heavily regulated scold culture.
yes, yeah, where average people still don't have any real say, and the rich and wealthy elites, while everyone is taken care of by the nanny state, the rich and wealthy elites still essentially have their way on everything.
Right, while the poor people snitch on each other about breaking small laws and then get caned.
Yes, yeah, that's a very accurate way of putting it.
Yeah. I mean, we are seeing right now. We are watching the rise of fucking snitch culture. I don't know how we got to this point because throughout my whole time growing up in the United States, one of the worst things you could do is to be a little tattletale or a snitch. But now it's all snitch culture.
What are you talking
with
about?
With these fucking laws that they're doing of report on your neighbor and get your $50,000 settlement. Like the abortion law. They're going to do the same thing with the gun law. I think it's not good. And it's all the same. The rise of the Karen that wants to talk to the manager or calls the police on the black person walking through the park that doesn't look like they should be there. That kind of shit is I don't know why everything has to be we have to go tell teacher on what's happening. When did people stop being able to have fucking conversations?
I kind of disagree with you because I think the same thing that drives
you're wrong.
Karen who whatever talks to the manager is the same kind of person who would go and confront Ted Cruz in a restaurant while he's trying to have a meal. It's just being upset.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
I think it's just being upset enough to confront someone even when it's extremely socially awkward and you're alone in that situation.
Talking to the manager is kind of one thing. It's maybe the same energy, but I don't think they're the same person. Because I think the person who complains to the manager is much more likely to be a Ted Cruz voter.
Complains to the manager about what?
I mean, you can look at all the videos.
A lot of it was about not wearing masks and shit. Wasn't it? I think a lot of the recent Karenism was about masks. It was about them complaining about either nobody's wearing a mask or everyone's wearing a mask or I don't want to wear a mask.
Yeah, I think the mask thing is kind of over now because there's no more mandates.
But that's what mainstreamed that meme.
That's somewhat fair, but really what I'm talking about also is like I said, black bird watchers in the park getting the police called on them.
That's just one example. There's
it's happened a ton of times.
The mask shit has happened a ton of times. I think that's what mainstreamed it. That's what I think when I think of a Karen. That there are Karens who do it for their own reasons. I have asthma.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of my face. And there are Karens who are why the hell is nobody in your store wearing a mask? And why are you violating state law? There's two sides of it.
All that's over now, though. But yeah, I mean, I think both. Obviously, I think that asking people to wear masks is for public health and is much more reasonable. However, I think that...
What if you have asthma, Jordan?
I can't breathe. The CO2 levels are way too high.
I think that probably what needs to happen is people need to learn
not
to
use AC anymore.
Have conversations. Yeah, go back to OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
I think there's also an interesting. This is a very big side tangent. I think there is something to the fact that we should really be looking also at some of these old methods of cooling cities and stuff.
Old methods.
So does the American Taliban, Ari. Which is why they're trying to outlaw pants now for women.
By the way, I have to say...
You like making pants illegal for women?
Yes. I think it's hilarious that for all the people that are shit talking about how terrible the pullout from Afghanistan was and how terrible the Taliban is, I like how more and more it's getting referenced that the original deal that the America made with the Taliban was signed by Donald J. Trump. So Donald J. Trump is literally the American Taliban lover.
That was the argument for the longest time, was that Trump would have done it better and Trump was going to do it, but he didn't.
Stop the forever wars by signing a deal with America's enemies so that we don't have to fight.
Yeah.
Give up all the concessions that we don't need.
Exactly. Stop.
Let the Taliban do whatever the fuck they want, folks. We're going to build our own Taliban here. It'll be bigger. It'll be better.
It's the best.
We have the best Taliban.
It'll follow a religion that I also don't like, which is Christianity.
2 Corinthians, folks. Read it. It's beautiful.
Giants, chapter 3. that was an old book in the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't know why they took it out. Sounds like a good chapter.
Yeah. I would love to hear a long form interview of just Trump trying to talk about the Bible. That would make me very happy. I heard he's getting pretty active on Truth Social now, so I may need to try to join that.
I thought it didn't work.
I think they've.
It's like
I
taking
think
off play.
they're probably trying to update it now because he's actually started to truth or whatever it's called when you send a truth.
Check out this book. The Book of Giants, quote, stands as an attempt to explain how it was that wickedness had become so widespread and muscular.
Muscular evil.
I don't know who that quote is from.
We do love our big, strong, muscular evil, folks.
It's pre-flood. That's the problem. I want post-flood stuff.
Is it giants because of like people like Goliath, like this
Race of large men, straight out of central casting.
Oh, earthly half-breed races that were okay.
half-breed of what?
Antediluvial, so like pre-flood giants and their fathers, the Watchers, the sons of God, who rebelled against heaven, commingled in their lust with the daughters of men. Their corrupt offspring were called the giants, after called the Nephilim.
Oh yeah, the Nephilim.
The early half-breed races that fought against God and their righteous followers.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are like big into conspiracy theories believe in the Nephilim. That's like some of these like fossils that these human fossils that they've found that are like pretty like big. Some of them have turned out to be fake, but a lot of them think that it's like related to the Nephilim, which is interesting.
I'm gonna have to read this book now.
All right, he's getting deep into the Bible. Before you know it, we're gonna have.
Apparently, they
Christian-
had two versions of this book. So one was the Qur'an, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, but apparently there's another copy from nowhere else other than China.
Ooh.
In Turfan, which is insane. I've been there.
It's interesting.
In Xinjiang. Xinjiang's a beautiful place, folks.
It is. There's all that. Speaking of Xinjiang, there's all that leaked
Yeah, I saw that
information that came
lately.
out. I need to read through it all. I haven't had the chance yet. I'm writing my script.
I like how everyone went wild on it because they're like now they're anti-China because of the lockdowns that apparently worked. By the way,
It seems like it.
while the WHO was like, this is unsustainable and it will never work.
Yeah, they did it in a terrible way. They flagrantly violated people's human rights and should be called out for that. But if they would have done it in like a actually humane way, I mean, either way it worked. But they should have done it in a more humane way.
I
think
agree,
That
but the
needs to be
fact
called out.
that everyone was like, it's never gonna work.
Yeah, and it clearly does because it's fucking worked for over 1,000 years. There's a lot of like animal action going on today. Cat fights, police getting called for what may have been a domestic dispute,
Monkey fight.
monkey fights, pigeons flying overhead. It's a regular jungle out here, folks, and we're bringing it to you live. There's gonna be a bunch of wind noise on this. Oh, well.
I'm gonna write an article about this. I just wanted to mention about like Biden's little, what do they call
Gaffe?
it? Yeah, they call it gaffe. They call it misspeaking, and then just like with calling Putin a war criminal, he's like, that wasn't misspeaking. I meant what I said.
Yeah.
And the press were like, no, don't talk about the dear leader of the person who sends us all our oil like that. I like how upset he got the last time he got called out.
Explain what you're talking about for people listening.
The previous case or this case?
This case.
This case, Joe Biden said that for the third time now, it's been pretty explicit,
Yeah.
that if China were to unilaterally invade Taiwan, that he would come to Taiwan's aid. And well, I believe, and this is what my article will state, that fully stands within the one China policy. Because basically it's saying that there cannot be any unilateral shift of the status quo, or the United States will take steps to intervene. And I think the whole claim for what's the word they use? I haven't eaten yet today, so my brain is starting to get
ambiguity.
Strategic ambiguity is basically saying that the United States can't make explicit enough promises that Taiwan takes its own steps to unilaterally declare independence and disturb the status quo. What he said has nothing to do with that. He's saying that China unilaterally disturbed the status quo, that they would intervene.
Yeah, he's not saying Taiwan should declare independence.
Exactly. And I think to say that challenges strategic ambiguity misunderstands the meaning of that. Not only that, but to question that and to say the United States might not intervene itself disturbs that status quo order, because it's basically saying that, yeah, maybe China, you can do whatever the fuck you want, and if it's an election year, we're just not going to stand in your way.
Right.
Like, by questioning him holding up that strategic ambiguity, and because again, it is ambiguous whether if Taiwan unilaterally declared independence and disturbed the status quo, whether the United States would intervene.
Yeah.
I think that I lost my train of thought.
Then that
Let me go have some chocolate.
that would obviously be a deviation from status quo, I think is what you're saying.
Oh, I already feel better.
Got that sugar high.
Anyway, yeah, I remember my point now. See, magic. I lost it. I think that by questioning the United States' resolve to uphold the status quo, it's actually undermining the entire security arrangement altogether. So my question is whether the U.S. can be relied upon, because a lot of the claims of Kissinger and Zakaria and all these quote-unquote realists who are basically just like appeasement free traders, and will put like free trade over everything else.
Emphasis on traders.
Yeah. Their argument is the same thing with Russia, basically, that we need to end this war quickly because heaven forbid Republicans take over the House and suddenly like switch sides or something like that, as if that would ever happen. Like, all the funding so far has been totally bipartisan. Donald Trump is an aberration, and there's a big question mark whether he'll even be alive in 2024 for this election. Like,
for sure, or
a healthy
if
monster.
He'll definitely have a strong base of support if he is, but that doesn't mean that he's going to have the same base that he had before, because there's definitely some fracturing of the Republican Party.
Not only that, it's very unlikely that he'll win unless it's him versus like Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Donald Trump's like rotten corpse could be Kamala Harris, but that's a little bit of a special case.
Anyway, it's a bullshit argument, and it's the same argument essentially, that because there are two parties in America that sometimes diverge in foreign policy, that we should basically just let the rest of the world get what they want so that things don't ever change again. That's basically their argument here.
Well, we need those cheap plastic goods.
Well, with China, we want, I don't know what we want from them. Masks, maybe. I mean, I don't think Republicans.
No one's wearing masks anymore. I don't think that matters to them.
Cheap smartphones, how about that?
Yeah, I think that's true. Cheap technological products.
Even though a lot of that is being more and more, Vietnam and Thailand are like the cores of
India as well.
India as well, but I think the highest end stuff is coming out of Vietnam lately.
Yeah,
which is interesting. Like smartphones, most like Samsung.
Yeah.
And Taiwan. I mean, with the high end chips at least, and of course Samsung, their chip foundries I think are all still in Korea, but I think they had a couple in China. But anyway, the bulk of the high tech stuff is Taiwan and Korea, and I think the lower tech stuff is still China, Vietnam. Mid tech, let's say.
Yeah, I think some of that's starting to move out, but it's not incredibly clear exactly to how permanent that is and what's exactly going to happen. But
I believe India's phones are, while they might be assembled in India, I think most of the pieces in them are bought from Taiwan, honestly, and China. So all of the components, I should say. It's a better word. I feel like I'm correcting somebody's essay. Now that I got this sugar high.
Feeling good. Got that endorphin rush from all the chocolate. Any other big stuff happening?
Yeah, lots of stuff. Let me just check through. I don't know anything that's worth like mentioning because we've already been going on for a while. Now that we already talked about the important stuff like the Book of Giants.
Saw a thing saying that Putin is apparently trying to remove the military age limit.
That's interesting. What do you mean? Like it's set to 18 right now?
I assume it is. That's
18 to 40?
Yeah, it seems because there was an article saying Zelensky was like calling him out for it, saying like it's barbaric that you're just.
If he really does change that and he starts doing mass conscription, I think his time as president is more numbered than it will be more numbered than it is right now.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot more pushes within his own like upper echelons of power to knock him out. because I think they know now that the West, for whatever reason, for all the things that they don't care about, for all the things that they basically let like free trade run rampant on, the violation of the UN Charter in the invasion of Ukraine is something that I don't think they will rescind sanctions on until Putin is out of power. I don't know.
It's hard to say. Yeah,
It's hard to say. It depends
yeah.
on who's the U.S. president, honestly. It depends a lot, because Biden has been very forceful on this.
Yeah.
Even against the wishes of a lot of the foreign policy establishment, like the Zacharias and the Kissinger.
Like Kissinger, yeah, that monster.
Yeah, I wrote a nice article.
Yeah, I posted it. It's on everywhere. You guys need to go read our stuff.
Yeah, it's totally farcical. And
Well, Kissinger has been a monster for a very long time, wanting to open up relations with China, calling himself a pragmatist, talking about how we should use smaller nukes, and so we
Listen,
can use them more liberally.
his thing about why we should basically, the West should basically first annex territory from Ukraine and then give it as concessions to Russia. You know, his entire argument for that is based off of China. He is completely China-centric in his worldview.
He loves China.
To the point where it's like, why even listen to? You've been wrong on China since the 1970s.
He's
since
been
the
wrong on
60s.
pretty much everything since the 1960s. He's a monster, and one of the worst ghouls in American history, at least modern American history.
I think he's made a lot of terrible choices. I think he's a smart guy, and I think he really studies a lot and he understands the history, but he is terrible at predicting the future and the outcomes of the circumstances that he understands.
I think he's also has removed himself from it and doesn't really care about what actually happens as a result of some of these decisions that he's pushing for.
I would say all elites have done that.
That might be true.
See him as unique in that.
That might be true. I think he's unique in the fact that he's really does not seem to care about like civilian loss of life.
Again, I think that all elites do that. I don't think a single elite. I think like they're, like you said, the crocodile tears that they cry in Parliament or in Congress or something like that. They really don't care. I don't think anyone really cares.
I largely agree with you, but I think he has pushed for some of the worst stuff and continued to, even after it's failed miserably. So I don't know. Just to give the details from that, just from the top of this article, it says Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky.
This is a quote, right?
Yeah, spoke of openly barbaric strikes, and said Russia shelling killed one person and wounded others in residential area Saturday as the country continues to fight against Vladimir Putin's invasion, saying that the situation is very complicated. I can't read today.
Wait, whose quote is this?
This is from a news article from Newsweek.
You bitch.
He said Zelensky provided the update in a nightly address as Ukraine ended its 94th day of war, and Putin officially removed the upper age threshold for military enlistment in Russia.
Upper age.
So it's just the upper age. I just wanted to make that clear so people don't take that out of context and then spread misinformation, because we're all about the real information, folks. We got the documents.
I was going to write another article. I thought this was really interesting. I'll just mention it. So before, his claims for war have gone so far across the map, it's insane. First, it was about NATO. Mm-hmm. Then it was about defending, like when the war actually started, it was about defending the two autonomous republics, right?
Right.
Now, he basically has claimed that the autonomous republic land that he's claiming is a part of Russia because he is going to found a new university. A new Russian university in a supposedly autonomous republic that needed his defense.
Wow.
So no, they're not independent countries. They're just a part of Russia. The war isn't even over, and they're already like gathering funding for universities there. I forget which city. Melitopol.
Yeah, that's I think where some of this shelling was just happening. Oh no, it's
fucking hilarious. Like, please give me a break. Like, everything he says, everything that comes out of his mouth is a putrid lie.
Yeah.
And like when people start talking about like creating a settlement with him, let's just be realistic. The war will end when Vladimir Putin decides it will end, and no peace agreement will keep it finished. Number one, no concessions will keep it finished. He's gonna decide when he pulls his troops out, because it's not a war, which is what I said.
Yeah.
He does not consider it a war. Therefore, he cannot sign like a peace agreement because it is a unilateral use of force within Ukraine, a country that he doesn't even recognize.
Right.
So who would the agreement be between? The Western countries giving concessions and validating his war crimes and his shattering of the international order and the UN's UN charter, or is it with the Ukrainian government who he doesn't recognize? Number one,
Right.
And number two, oh, don't drink that water. Oh no, that's dirty.
Another animal over here.
Another animal.
Little kitty cat.
Or number two, yeah, with the Ukrainians who he doesn't recognize and who he's not formally in a state of war with. So he's not going to sign an agreement, number one, because it doesn't make any sense. And even if he did, you can't trust him to keep it. So
Right.
what the fuck is the point of giving concessions? What's the point of even negotiating?
Well, it's also just
batter him into submission.
it's the same idea as like negotiating with terrorists, like
Hitler.
When you pay the ransom, they're just gonna go, well, that fucking worked, so I guess I'm gonna keep doing it. Like you said, he's not gonna stop at like, well, you gave me this territory. He wants the whole fucking thing.
He doesn't even want it. That's my idea. That's my point. Not my idea. It's not my original idea. The idea that's been basically put out there for decades now is that he never cared about Ukraine. It's not
right.
You think he cares about the ruined metalworks in like what's that city, Mariupol? Do you think he cares about these cities that have like an 18th of their previous population that are just a pile of rubble?
No.
And he's gonna establish these beautiful like Renaissance factories there? They're economically, politically worthless. All he cares about is destroying Ukraine and propping up his own power.
Yeah, they're just marching in there and doing parades and
So
going,
giving
we liberated it.
Giving concessions might like be like, oh yeah, that's a nice prize for like my war crimes, but you're not giving him something he wants. He doesn't care about it, and he wants to win it. That's the point. He wants to conquer. He wants to destroy Ukraine, which is why the initial invasion aim was to conquer Kiev. You think he gives a fuck?
No, Ari, it was to denazify Ukraine.
Yeah, so let's be honest. He doesn't give a shit about like whether you give him the land rights to some rubble-strewn mined farmland in eastern Ukraine that he never cared about. No. Let's just be honest.
Can we just be honest, folks? Just for a minute. Yeah, it's preposterous. But unfortunately, the elites will continue to, one, listen to people and also welcome with open arms people like Kissinger with these deranged, idiotic ideas.
Well, I mean, he just is representative of the entire string of elites where you have bad ideas and even if you deliberately hurt somebody, like it's not only that you make mistakes and don't get anything accomplished, even if you deliberately hurt somebody like the Marcos family, you get rewarded for it because of the name
you fail
recognition.
Upwards. Yeah, exactly.
It's a sick system we got, folks.
We've got black pills for everyone here.
Black pills, get
And
your
trust
black
me, they're
pills.
not benzodiazepines.
We would never give out anything addictive.
Except for hate.
Well,
My advice to everyone, if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling sad,
eat
go
some
adopt a
chocolate.
stray dog. You'll feel better.
That's true.
Once they tear apart all your furniture and you become post-capitalist like me.
Take care of animals. That is a good way to be happier. Take care of your fucking fellow citizens too. Go fucking check on your neighbors.
Yeah, I was thinking of volunteering at one of these old people homes lately, but I feel like it would be very difficult because they just yell at me in Taiwanese.
During COVID too, I think it's kind of probably dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
So-
they probably now more than ever they need like volunteers. I don't know if they do though, because a lot of it's not like America where there are like public senior centers. A lot of the old people here refuse to go, so they'll just live alone. In which case, they won't want assistance from outside.
Or they'll have like a private assistant,
yeah,
like a live-in nursemaid or whatever word you want to use for that. Caretaker.
Stormy Daniels. There's one of our neighbor ladies back here, and every time she sees me with Poppy, she always like waves to me.
Yeah.
And like not shouts. She just speaks it like a normal volume from like 30 feet away.
Uh-huh.
So I can't hear what she's saying in Taiwanese. And her daughter, or I assume it's her daughter, she's also like 30, 40 years younger than this lady.
Uh-huh.
And looks Taiwanese. Is always like just giving this look like, what are you doing?
She's having fun.
Yeah, I agree, and I always wave back at her, and I'm like, done, like being friendly, but
What's up?
Yeah. I think that's one thing I like when it happens in our neighborhood. It doesn't always happen. It seems like it's kind of split between people who are like very friendly and always say hi, and people who just kind of scowl.
there's a lot of grumps. There's a lot of grumps here. The lady who lives next to Kata is very nasty.
Is she?
She maybe be nice to some people, but like she gives me the creeps. She like I think I told you one time I was just walking Poppy, and we were walking, and she's just like slowly creeping up behind me in her scooter. So I asked her, I'm like, do you want to park here? And she doesn't say anything. She's like 2 feet away from me.
Yeah.
She doesn't say anything. She just like waves her head
gives
and
you
like,
the
get the fuck out of my way.
Get out of here.
And then later she was yelling at me for like dog shit. It wasn't Poppy's. Like she has a stray dog literally that lives next to her.
Yeah.
So she was just taking out her anger on me. And I'm like, why are you blaming me? Like there's so many stray dogs.
Yeah, there were dogs barking for hours behind our house last night up in the mountain, just incessantly.
Yeah.
I was
Like
so
when I first moved to this
I got
neighborhood.
so mad at one point. I like came outside because I thought it was in front of our house because the echo, but it wasn't. I was gonna go out there and be like, "Shut up! Like, please shut up."
You should do that at the top. If you need backup, I'll go with you. We can scare them off.
I mean, I would love
Break up.
for all of those dogs to come down here. I would feed them, I would pet them, I would hang out with them, but they cannot be like at each other's throats behind my house for 2
They're
hours.
just being territorial, and that's why sometimes you just got to get them out of that area.
Y'all need to calm down now.
There's some very violent gangs here right now. I know there's a gang around the that parking lot by the park there.
Oh yeah.
They're vicious. I saw them. Well, at one point they tried to attack Poppy. Before I stopped them, I put a stop to that.
Big strong man.
And there was another one. I had to intervene. There was like a lone black dog who like wasn't initiating any of the gangs.
Right.
He
He
was
hadn't
just-
been jumped in yet.
He was just minding his own business, and literally they ran across the street through that really dangerous traffic, and like basically just started biting him.
Jeez.
And I heard him like screaming, and I just picked up Poppy and I ran off. I'm like screaming at them to get away, and they did. You know, they're afraid of people,
Yeah, they're definitely afraid of people.
which is good because I don't want to get my hands dirty.
I wish they were a little bit less afraid of people, because there's like a couple of like the smaller groups that like they're not like, I never really see them fighting, but they'll like bark at other dogs sometimes. But I want to make them friends, and I want to bring all the gangs together.
I don't know if you can bring the gangs together, but you could definitely become personally friends with them. You just have to like slowly.
I got the two at the convenience store.
Well, those two are just sweet dogs.
Those two are sweet dogs.
They're not a gang.
They're a
like-
little they are a little territorial. They never like fight, but they'll like
I've seen that. yeah.
roll up on like other dogs and like bark at them to stay out of their territory.
Which is weird because they love Poppy. Well, they sometimes love Poppy. Xiaohu was like
Xiaohu's-
out at our door
yeah.
at my door last night, like wanting to see Poppy.
Yeah, they follow me home quite often when I go over there. They're pretty sweet little pups. But I don't know. The Xiaohu was like coughing yesterday or something,
Ooh.
or like had something stuck in her throat. So I was worried, but today she
Might
was
get
okay.
COVID.
That's what I was hoping, not that she didn't have it. That would suck if I got COVID from a dog.
I mean, it's possible.
It is possible. I'm just saying that would be like one of the worst ways to get it.
I'd say that would probably be the best way to get it. If I was gonna catch COVID, I'd prefer to catch it from a dog, where you're not like angry at society.
I guess that's true.
You're just angry at Chen Zedong for letting it in.
For giving it to that poor sweet little puppy. Oh, we have a round 2.
It sounds like it's up the hill.
Okay.
Looks like it's coming more from here than back here.
We've been having this. Today has been one beautiful, absolutely gorgeous weather,
It's good weather, yeah.
but a lot of noise and conflict today. And I'm hoping that clears up. People have probably been locked inside their houses for too long with all this rain.
That's true too, yeah.
But I will say that all the reservoirs are basically full now, except for Taichung. So that's good. Hopefully we'll have water this summer.
Yeah, we'll definitely have some water. I just hope the weather stays nice. I'd like to do some beaches. That's why I was thinking of getting a motorcycle, because I'm not gonna take a bicycle up to the beach.
Yeah, it's kind of a rough road for a bike. But yeah,
I was looking at those classic Kawasaki's. I was gonna say Olivia's. Oh, I'm not gonna say it. It sounds cringy coming out. Olivia's dad is fixing up an old Kawasaki, beautiful, like from the '80s, like a carbureted one, and he's like really handy. So I bet that, like the engine, and the electrics will be all in good condition. So I was thinking of copying that one, but I always wanted one of those like Yamaha sports bikes from the '90s.
yeah.
Like those 135s, like FZ 135s. So I'm thinking, but those ones are 2-stroke and they are dirty as shit.
Yeah,
Like,
2-stroke is bad news.
you can hear them and you can smell them and you can see the smoke. At least with the Kawasaki's, I think are 2-strokes too. But
Yeah.
if you get the carburetor in good balance, it probably won't smoke too much.
Hopefully not, but I like the sound. I like 2-strokes, but obviously they're just terrible for the environment because they're just burning oil constantly.
Sounds like what we do anyways.
But I like the sound.
Let's see
Bing,
what they
bing,
have.
bing, 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 bing.
The one I was
You should
looking
just cop one of those like 50cc 2-strokes and bore it out to like a
at,
135.
I don't have money to be illegally rebuilding engines.
Do you remember when we were on that trip and there was
yeah, I
those two
remember that.
guys? Yeah, that was.
I
sick.
remember that.
Those were sick scooters. They're loud though, and I really don't like loud like exhausts.
I don't want fast either. That's the thing, because I will, if I can go fast, I'll probably let it slip and go too fast. Which is why I like those 125, 135s, because I just won't go fast.
I mean, they can still go fast though. Like
You know what I mean? They're
my
like,
scooter's a 125, and it can do like I've done like 90 on it before.
I think scooters.
I don't do that.
I'm not
anymore.
saying they can't go fast, but it's harder to get them to go fast, because especially with manual motorcycles, especially carbureted ones, like it's a struggle to pull them up sometimes to those high speeds. The sports bike might be different.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Cause I used to drive an old 50cc 2-stroke when I first came to Taiwan, and that thing had sick acceleration, but it could only do like 55 tops. Like I would open the throttle all the way and it would just be doing like 55, 60 kilometers per hour, by the way, for anyone listening. Not miles per hour.
That's like what, 30? I mean, that's a safe bike though. That's
No,
the
yeah,
thing.
it was great. I love that bike.
I love that bike.
It was just so old it just kept breaking down.
I'm gonna start scrolling motorcycle groups again.
Scrolling.
2011 Chevy Tahoe. This is from America.
I would also like to get a blue truck.
Why?
I don't know. I would like to have like an enclosed vehicle in case I wanted to like drive down to Taidong or something.
Off pod. I mean,
Got any other news, bud?
Oh, I was gonna look through, but then I started motorcycle shopping.
Yeah, I know. That's the
All
problem.
right, let me see.
We got a lot of good combo on here. I love how this is like 50% news and 50% just behind behind FCP. What's going on in the boys' lives?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying it's good.
So yeah, I agree.
Oh, let's see.
Samoa signed some agreement with China.
Samoa or American Samoa?
Samoa, the
Okay.
country Samoa. So it seems like in response to the kind of lukewarm American push, let's say the Biden push towards Taiwan, that China is responding by trying to kind of, I don't want to say colonize, but let's say shore up their power in the Southwest Pacific and create openings for them to perhaps project military presence down there.
Certainly. I mean, they did it with the Solomon Islands. They're probably going to do it with a number of states over there if that they can get in with. How well it works will be interesting to see, because certainly some civilians have not been incredibly happy about
By the way,
increased China presence.
I heard recently that there's more friction between Xi Jinping and Li Keqiang.
Oh, really? Yeah, I had been hearing rumors of that like a year ago.
Well, this is
but-
about COVID. So
Oh,
basically,
okay.
that Xi Jinping is more like, we need to stay strong and maintain COVID zero, and
Right.
Li Keqiang is like, not at the cost of our economy. Yeah, which means, and obviously you know who's going to win that battle.
Well, of course.
But this is one where I obviously agree with Xi Jinping on. Although I think he's done a bad job implementing it. I think a lot of that is the fault of local administrations, not necessarily the fault of the central government.
Yeah, I would say being like a centrally planned state, they probably should have
Agreed.
given more support. But
Agreed,
but
but-
I get your point. And that's a lot of problems.
Giving up is not an option.
That's true. A lot of the problems do come from local bureaucracy and corruption in China, and I think people don't realize that because it's such a fucking massive state.
That's interesting though, and it could. I mean, this friction could pave the way for some trouble for the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, I'm interested to see as Xi's next election starts to get closer and closer.
I wonder if something like this could be like the trigger for some kind of long-term democratization.
Well, let me tell you something, bud. I'm going to talk about that on the history pod soon about Tiananmen, and I'm going to do probably 2 pods, a lead up and then what happened in Tiananmen. But they were quite close to having, I wouldn't say democracy, but democratic reforms.
Yeah, I know.
Like high ups, like
I've read
Hu Yaobang and people like that.
Talking about how basically they need to prevent that from happening again at all costs.
Of course. I'm surprised Jiang Zemin is let out of his basement anymore.
No, this was back in the 90s. I read his old
okay.
books. 90s. I guess it was in the 2000s when these were published. But I think that this has probably led to some soul searching for the Chinese Communist Party, being like, is this what we're going to end up as? Like, basically, like Russia, what I meant.
Right.
That this is our future of basically being like an isolated kind of failed state with no reforms because of the problems with authoritarianism and the lack of accountability. And I know that the Chinese Communist Party, while it is very hierarchical, does have significantly more accountable mechanisms for accountability, but a lot of that was crushed under Xi Jinping. And I think by having an authoritarian state like this, without a strong fixed constitution, which there isn't, as you can see by his seeking a third term, and I know that's not constitution, whatever, it's like norm based, whatever.
They don't follow their constitution either, but which was a big thing in Tiananmen is basically we have technically on paper the rights to freedom of speech and freedom of the press, but they're not actually doled out. They're not actually allowed.
Then. So is that where they might think, are we going to end up like this? Like long term, where we just have like a single leader in power for 20, 30 years and just consolidating power and turning us into a state that's no longer occupied by interests about the future, about the actual state itself, but dominated by the interests of a single person. Because I would say Russia's choices, fuck all that bullshit about NATO or about like Russian power or something like that. Russia is a failed state. There's no questioning it. Everything about it, it's a failed state, and it's because of the kleptocracy put in place by Putin.
Kleptocracy, and also just
a single man.
These politics of just like the dear leader of the one strong man that just is rule over everything, which is
so you're sacrificing the state for a man rather than the opposite.
Yeah, it's all about that one person. Similarly to what happened in Mao's later years, and similarly to what's kind of ramping up, as you were saying, under Xi Jinping.
And I wonder, because I've seen China's actions, China's people, a lot of people have been questioning, like Kissinger, basically, whether China would prop up the Russian regime here. And I doubt that because of China's weak rhetorical support for this. While they support Russia and they support anti-Western imperialism as they see it in this kind of hegemony, they also aren't like, invasion is okay and like this kind of one-man rule is good. There's no celebration of Putin and there's no celebration of Russia.
No, they're solidly sitting on the fence, and it's obvious why they're doing it. It's because they're already flirting with becoming a pariah state, and they don't want to become a full one. Because just like you said, if they become a Russia, China's fucked.
But this is my point, that it's causing this soul searching where they're wondering, like, is this really the road we want to go down? Did we not want like integration and stuff? And is this single party, single man rule really worth it? And I think the lack of strong support for Russia is a reflection of that soul searching on the part of Xi Jinping and the upper echelons of the Chinese Communist Party.
I hope so, and I hope they come out on the right side of it, but we'll see.
That's speculation. There's no way to know what they're thinking, but
I think there's also an increase in the public's dissatisfaction. And
with what?
With
you're talking about the Russian public or
the Chinese public? The Chinese public, with how the lockdowns went. I don't necessarily think they're like dying to open up, but I do think that obviously the flagrant human rights violations that happened especially in Shanghai, like people were very, very upset with that, and you could see that, well, now deleted posts, but posts that were all over social media.
What I would say is that represents like less than what the entire population of Shanghai is.
It's like 22 million
Less
or
than
something.
2% of their
Yeah.
population. So it's not like there's mass unrest across all of China. It's
Right.
While they are economic elites, it is a very small fraction of the population who's upset. The rest of the country is probably grateful that the government didn't let it spread to them.
For COVID, but I'm just saying I think that's symptomatic. And again, because I'm in like I have like Tiananmen brain right now. That's also what you saw like during that time. And these things compound upon each other, where it's like, okay, you like you're pushing out one of the politicians that I like, and then it people start pushing out more and more like, this is what I'm upset about. Well, I'm upset about this. I have this local dispute. And I think it compounds upon itself. So I agree with you on specifically on COVID. I don't think the Chinese public is like up in arms about it. I think probably most of them are, like you said, happy about it. But I do think that, as always, because also, as you mentioned earlier, Xi Jinping has kind of dismantled these systems, which were already weak, of accountability that they had. I think that people who don't, and this is why they do these things like let people post these sorts of anti-government things on Weibo, is kind of as a release valve. But I think that pressure keeps building up, and China has not gotten less bureaucratic and less corrupt.
No, but it has gotten more monolithic in terms of the state of the party. And
right, but that's what I'm saying. I think that exasperates people's frustrations with it. So I
think most people, just like every other country in the world, are relatively apolitical. I think that there's always a small political minority, but the opening that led to that minority being able to voice themselves in the 1990s was the fact that there was a split Chinese Communist Party between reformists and hardliners. That split does not exist now. It might form, but at present, there's no room for that to explode. It will inevitably lead to crackdown. Immediate, brutal crackdown if there is any release of like past what the party decides they allow. And I think without a split within the party that's willing to tolerate that dissent, I think it won't end up like Tiananmen yet.
But no, I agree. I'm not saying that there's going to be like another Tiananmen, but I do think, like you were saying, it could help to push these politicians into doing some whatever form it takes of these liberalization or democratization, especially if there are, like you said, like Li Keqiang is starting to create this like rift in the party. In terms of liberalization, things that they talked about, at least
Li Keqiang is going to lose his head if he keeps going.
It depends. Shit. Yeah, it depends on how far he decides to go. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see him disappeared for a couple years.
The party has made, let's say the party, Xi Jinping, through the party, has made abundantly fucking clear that there will be no dissent on this issue. I've seen people like Hu Xijin, like these pretty powerful people that are out in the public talking about this. He released an editorial talking about like economics basically in the same light or something like that. Basically like not really criticizing it, but questioning the sustainability of COVID-0. That editorial got deleted, and within days there was a new one where he was basically like the only good positive thing for this country to do is COVID-0.
Yeah.
They've made abundantly fucking clear that's the policy.
That policy is definitely going to be the one that goes forward. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think that the crux of the issue will be COVID-0 at all.
Well, that's what it is right now. What are you suggesting it would be?
I'm suggesting that might be the entry point for an airing of grievances that might coalesce behind some other leader. And then if that leader does get disappeared, just like what happened with the ousting of Hu Yaobang, like then that could create some increased rifts. And maybe then there is some actual soul searching and some reforms because of that. I hope. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating.
I hope that it doesn't require all of this intrigue, and I hope that it's already taking place, and I hope
Certainly.
that Xi Jinping is kind of doing a little bit of soul searching and processing that he's not going to be the last leader of the People's Republic of China if this continues, that tries to seek like basically lifelong rule.
Yeah.
And who's to say that the next one, I'm not saying he's good or bad, but I think that, let's just say there will be worse ones probably, even worse, who are more personally interested in their own personal betterment and ambition than they are in the Chinese state. So
Certainly could be.
if he's aware of that, if he's capable of kind of thinking metaphysically outside of himself, thinking about the future of China, then maybe he'll come to that realization and put some things in place, and hopefully reforms at the end of his last term here, which I hope this is his last 5-year term, that basically prevent this from happening again and start reforming this system a little bit. And I can't see China like democratizing like that, but I can see some moves towards that.
No, I would. Yeah, I think it will be light reforms at best. I'm not speculating that they're going to have some sort of like people's revolution and they're going to democratize. But hopefully, at least the little inklings of a beginning of that can happen. But we'll see.
You see, Kevin Spacey got charged with sexual assault from like a case like 17 years ago, in the UK, no less.
Didn't that happen like 2 years ago?
No, this was like the last week, the last few days.
There's another one because I didn't know if he got. I don't know if he got charged, but he got outed as like.
No, this is charged. He got charged by the UK, but they're like, well, he's not in the country, so.
Yeah, and then they're not going to extradite him.
It doesn't seem like they are, but. Yeah, with these really old cases, the statute of limitations in the United States typically is like 7 years. So a 17-year-old case is a little bit difficult to try because it's basically like multiple decades old hearsay. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it. I'm not trying to take a stance on this, but I think that it's a very bold move. Let's say that.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think like in terms of these violent crimes, there probably shouldn't be a statute of limitations. But obviously, yeah, once you get decades and decades, it does get complicated, and it certainly gets harder to try those cases. But I in terms of like things like sexual assault, I understand why they would have long or completely remove these statute of limitations because it's clear people are often shamed and don't want to come forward.
That's the statute of limitations is not to give people like a cooling off period. The statute of limitations is designed basically because it's difficult to try somebody for like a minor crime. I'm not saying that sexual assault is a minor crime. I'm saying like I'm not here to judge the scale of crimes. Basically, in my old state, anything other than like I think murder, any felony, I think the statute of limitations was 7 years. So let's say a theft or something like that. Like you can't try it without evidence. People disappear, people die. It's just impossible, and it like creates burdens on the entire prosecutorial system to try to expect the government to try these cases. So like,
yeah, I understand that. I also think that like, I also believe that we should probably try to find justice for these people as much as possible.
I agree, but I wonder if the justice would be better found in like the civil arena than trying to prosecute somebody for in a case that's almost impossible to prove in a criminal case where the burden of proof is much higher.
Maybe. I don't know
either. This was, who was it? It wasn't Dustin Hoffman. It was one of these other old people. Oh, Dylan who's that musician?
Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. Bob Dylan got charged for something because they had like a special exception to the statute of limitations in New York. Somebody charged him for sexual assault or for some sexual crime. I forget what it was. It was like a 30, 40, 50-year-old case. I think it was from like the 1970s.
Wow.
In which case like most of the witnesses are probably dead or senile. And it makes me wonder why. I understand trying to find justice, but what I don't understand is like whether we can expect that much of our justice system when they can barely.
We clearly can't. I mean, you can look at sexual assaults and rapes that are reported now. There's such a backlog of like these testing kits and stuff. Like it's a joke. But
really?
I mean, yeah.
We don't have enough
No. There's a
kits?
huge backlog of them just not like running the tests.
Oh.
So because police are not there to protect you. They're there to protect the property of the elites. And enforce their ridiculous laws on us. I don't know. I don't think anything's going to happen, but I think
Look up the Bob Dylan case
with these shootings and stuff, I hope that there's a serious like re-examination of like what policing is in the United States and how broken fundamentally that system is. By the way, everyone out there, 2 things to Google to learn a little bit more about the police. Google 40% of police, and you can also Google Los Angeles police gangs. You can learn a lot about those.
Okay, here I found it. So, yeah, it says it's a lawsuit 56 years ago. It says he's 80 years old. I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm not saying that excuses you of crimes, but I'm saying it's difficult to prosecute somebody who's like probably not mentally there. There was a case recently about that too. I forget what it was in the United States where they were trying to execute someone. I think it was in Arizona where they were trying to execute someone, and basically his attorneys were saying he doesn't even know why he's being executed. Like, he doesn't remember the crime even.
Well,
and they're like, well, it doesn't matter.
I know routinely, like, they Oklahoma has done this a number of times. They execute people with like IQs of like 80 for crimes that they probably didn't commit, and some of them after the fact get exonerated based on DNA evidence. It's disgusting, and obviously we shouldn't
You're
have.
the one who was questioning IQs.
We shouldn't have. Well. I mean, if you can prove that you're mentally unfit, I agree. I do think IQ is. I don't like it like as like a measure for a lot of things, but yeah, it's maybe. We also, it's, you know, what other tools do we have? But if you can,
ASVABs.
if you can show that, yeah, the ASVAB. If you can show that someone's like mentally unfit, and also like we just shouldn't have the death penalty. I don't know. Like,
I agree.
We should abolish that disgusting shit anyway. Doesn't do anything. We get the wrong person 4% of the time, and states should not be executing their own citizens.
What about for leaders? What about for like war crimes and stuff like that?
I think what I want to say is that that's fine, but I think probably we shouldn't.
Yeah,
I think probably we just shouldn't kill anyone.
I don't think it's. I think it's a little bit shameful. Like we went in as kind of like this law and order country into like Iraq, and then we ended up hanging Saddam Hussein like a dog. I mean, like who hangs people anymore?
Did we hang him, or did we hand him over to the citizens who hanged him?
I forget.
I mean, Gaddafi. That was like,
no, he wasn't executed. He was murdered. The state wasn't responsible for that.
That's fair. I mean, a lot of leaders have been executed throughout the years. Mussolini famously. Some of the, not enough in my opinion. And again, probably shouldn't have been executed, but maybe put in jail for life. But a lot of the leaders of the Nazi Party were not a lot of them. Some of them were executed.
Some of them were reinstated to their former posts.
Some of them were brought over to the United States to work on our fucking rocket programs in Operation Paperclip.
Well, some of them worked for the Nazis, not of their own volition too.
Yeah, that
like
gets
Werner Heisenberg.
That I
don't know.
That gets into like the whole we were just following orders type shit.
I have somebody who knows some scientists. I would say that a lot of like hard scientists are, because they're so obsessed with their work, some of them are apolitical. They kind of like they can't understand the social context outside of their own like little microsphere.
Yeah, I agree, but once you know that the country that you're working for, the government that you're working for, is doing a genocide, I think you have a moral obligation to step down, or at least
and then go to jail.
At least sabotage. You can quietly sabotage.
Dangerous. It's a big ask of a scientist.
I understand. I'm saying it's
especially one who doesn't care about politics.
It's complicated, but that doesn't excuse anything. And I think being apolitical is a political decision in and of itself, and you have to deal with.
I disagree. I think that a lot of people are just don't have not capacity. They don't have a
desire.
They just aren't operating at that bandwidth. Let's just say
don't have a propensity for it.
Sure.
I think. I mean that's fine, but again, I think it's still a political decision. I hope everyone can hear the wind rushing over us as we shrug our shoulders at each other.
Do you think we should have compulsory voting then?
I used to be very strong in favor of compulsory voting. Now, I kind of wish we did, but it's not like my number one issue. But yeah, I would be in favor of it. I mean, Australia does it. You just pay like a $20 ticket if you don't do it. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
What the fuck? Fuck off. It's a weird beetle, like a big straw on his tip.
Beetle Bailey. How do we get on this?
Talking about Heisenberg.
Heisenberg.
A lot of
I read about I did read about the very few officers that got executed from the Nazi Party, and apparently the guy that did it like purposely botched the executions, so they lasted like a really long time.
For you talking about for the Nazis?
Yeah. Which is like, again, I think we probably shouldn't be killing people, but
If you're gonna kill them hard.
my sympathies for the Nazis are pretty non-existent. So when you genocide 8 million Jewish people in Roma and mentally ill people and mentally
Communist
handicapped people,
Catholics,
yeah, exactly. Then
your own people,
you kind of
political prisoners.
get what's coming to you. Anyway, you got anything else, bud?
Sure I do, but I should probably go eat something. Let me take a quick look. Quick look.
Here's an article
Oh.
out of the Daily Mail.
Ugh.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi grew frustrated with a reporter who repeatedly asked her about COVID relief aid as she reminded him that people are dying in Ukraine. This'll be your third time, the California Democrat told NBC reporter and Punch Bowl journalist Jake Sherman.
Does it really say punchable
No,
journalist?
Punch Bowl.
Oh, I thought you said punchable journalist.
If anyone was going to say that, it would be the Daily Mail.
Punchable journalist. Maybe they wrote it like that to make you think it.
Maybe. I don't know. She said, yeah, well, people are dying in Ukraine, and all of that, you know? Wow, which is a very strong statement. People are dying in Ukraine and all of that. I'm definitely not trying to obfuscate the fact that we've totally failed in our COVID relief. And Sherman fired back, people are dying of COVID too, which is a very good point.
Yeah. More people.
The other thing is that
A lot more people.
why have we went from quote unquote the greatest country on earth, which has always kind of been a lie, but we went from that to we literally can't do two things at the same time, which is take care of our own people and send mass cadres of
Jordan,
weapons to Ukraine.
The real answer is we can't do either of them. We can't do anything.
Well, we've been sending a lot of weapons to Ukraine, to be fair.
Learning to live
But they
with
keep decoupling the COVID relief from the Ukrainian.
I mean,
relief.
it's just a cop out. You know.
Of course
you know
it
the
is. That's what I'm
answer.
saying, though.
They just don't want to give any money to people.
Fucking welfare queens.
They got to save it for those insurance company bailouts coming.
well,
Bailing out BlackRock.
they probably need to do.
Those poor people bought up all our housing supply. Now they can't. They're underwater.
They spend
on
all
those giant mortgages.
Well, they're about to be really underwater once climate change gets a hold. But they also
Bailouts.
they'll get more bailouts. They probably need to do another bailout of the airline companies too. I don't think they got enough of our money.
Totally agree with you.
The impotence of the American government is really showing its whole ass right now. It's disappointing.
The impotence is showing its ass right now.
So the impotence of the U.S. government is showing its whole ass right now.
Showing its whole ass.
Yeah, it's showing itself for what it is.
So you anthropomorphized the word impotence.
Yeah, of the government.
Okay.
It's a good phrase. People are gonna like that. We're gonna get iTunes reviews that say like, the reason why I started donating to their Patreon was because of this sick turn of phrase that Jordan had.
Because everything's uncensored.
Well, there's gonna be a few things that get censored in this, but we definitely don't filter our opinions. That's for sure. Just some of our more colorful language. Got anything else you need to get off your chest, bud? Your hairy bare chest.
Yeah, I haven't shaved my chest in a long time.
You shave your chest?
Sometimes, if it's like swimming season, makes me more. I won't shave it. I'll trim it.
Trying to be more aerodynamic.
Yeah, it helps, man. It's like this is a lot of. It's a big mat.
Getting a little drag on my chest hair.
That's the word I was looking for. Drag. Aerodynamic drag. Well, it's not aerodynamic. Hydrodynamic drag.
Okay, that's fair. All right, I can accept that.
Can you?
Yeah.
Can you now?
While I would never personally shave my chest, I certainly respect your right to do so.
It is a huge mistake for like a man to shave his chest, who naturally grows hair because.
Grows back thicker and darker.
Is that what I was gonna say?
That's what they always say, but I don't know if that's true. Because I've been shaving my face and head for a long time, and
Oh, I see a Jack Russell in the what do you call it? Shinu. In the what do you call it? Oh my gosh,
Animal
I'm losing all my
shelter?
words. I'm losing all my good words today. The animal shelter in Shinu. Tell Abby. I'm gonna send it to our group. that hasn't been talked in a while. Big cutie. Jack Russells are sick. I'm a big addict now. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you've become a believer.
This one looks a little bit like Poppy.
You have anything else to add, bud? Is there anything else we need to talk about?
I don't want to like go through all my news. I have a lot of articles coming out, so I'm gonna write some more in Chinese, Mandarin, I should say. And yeah, just like random conversation topics. I was looking up Kubrick yesterday. I want to go back and watch some old Kubrick movies.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
Kubrick's got some good stuff. I mean, you saw the one he shot about the moon landing. That was beautiful.
You and your conspiracy theories. We watched Eyes Wide Shut. We watched his last movie recently.
Eyes Wide Shut is a really good film.
I've been trying to watch Strangelove, Dr. Strangelove recently.
I
know you're a big Kissinger fan.
I would like to watch that.
Let's watch it. Let's put it out here. We'll get an extension cord. Do an outside movie night.
We got to figure out which wall to put the projector on, though.
All of them.
Just a panorama.
We'll just move the fridge out into the alley out
Just
there.
tip it over.
Give it back to Michael. Just throw it in this alley here. It's just like a rat-infested fucking nasty thing anyways.
It's good for storing all of our soil, though.
Why don't we put it in the alley back there, actually?
I don't want to move it, man. It's so big.
It's got wheels, though. Anyway,
No,
I mean, if we put it on this
think
wall,
it
I think
does,
that, the thing is rusted shut.
Yeah, it's not moving, bud. All right. To end on, what do you think the caseload's looking like today?
This is a time where I guess the numbers. Oh, well, the other thing I was going to say is I wanted to watch some Soviet movies, some Sergei Eisenstein.
I would like to do that as well.
I looked up some from Mosfilm, like their old Soviet film studio. They have them all online.
Oh,
Not
sick.
subtitled.
Oh, I wonder if you could find subtitles that you could
can.
download.
You can find some of them streaming. Remember, I was watching that weird, like, black and white one.
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
while.
yeah.
There are some channels that have that, but unfortunately, the big one. Sorry to interrupt. I think case numbers, I have no idea because it's like it's just made up. It's just not made up, but it's based on the number of PCRs that are like
Right.
available in the country that day. 102K. Deaths, I'd say 123, 124.
Yeah, my guess is, you think they're gonna break 100K today?
They've broken 100K every day for
They
the last.
haven't broken 100K yet.
Oh yeah, they have. Yesterday, every day.
No.
Yeah, man, I just read it a few minutes ago.
No.
It's been at 100K for.
No, it's
Not 100K.
94,000 yesterday. The day before, 81,000.
Oh, you mean 100K cases? I thought you meant
Yeah.
deaths. 100 deaths.
Oh no, not 100. No, 100 deaths for sure.
Yeah.
My guess would be.
I'm
gonna guess 92,704 cases and 131 deaths.
okay.
Let's see. It is. Oh. Wow. Cases are down.
Sure they are.
The
What
70,
that means is TCRs are down.
76,539.
peak is over.
66 imported cases, very serious, and 145 deaths.
Yeah, the deaths are
Yeah.
spiking.
Yeah. I mean, because we've said it a million times. The cases, deaths lag about 2-3 weeks, and
If these case numbers are even real, like.
but we saw the surge. The surge was like a couple weeks ago when it really got going. So
I
mean-
would say the cases might be surging now. We'd have no way of
no,
knowing.
I'm not saying they're not now. But what I'm saying is we went from having like
Oh, I know. I get
like a
what you're saying.
testable amount of cases to now it's like complete anarchy.
Okay, yeah.
Not complete anarchy.
Got
Let's-
it, got
let's
it.
be fair. All right. You got anything else you want to add?
No, we should take a break. Get ready for movies.
All right. Well, y'all, we love you. Make sure to go check out the website. We're posted on there every day. There's all kinds of good stuff. The History Pod is going to be coming out soon, so that
On CNN Plus.
will be it. Yeah, we've invested $500 million into our advertising. We're expecting about 400 subscribers.
So
So
you need to have me as a guest to make you laugh.
I can. I might have you. Maybe I'll have you on because
Maybe I'll let you on one time.
you know probably more than anyone else I could have on about Chinese history. So maybe I'll do that. Because the first one will probably be
Ben
on.
probably knows more than I do about Chinese history.
That might be true, but getting Ben to do anything besides
Ben will come on a podcast, man.
teaching at his trash school. Just kidding.
He's not gonna like those comments.
Well, let's see if he listens to the podcast. If so, he can come on and defend himself. But yeah, go out there. If you have some extra money to throw our way, go over to that Patreon and get some free goodies.
NFTs.
Ari's working on the NFTs. I still don't endorse that. But patreon.com, patreon.com/FreeChinaPost. Yeah, and share us with your friends, rate us on iTunes, all that stuff. Anything and everything really helps. Likes, clicks, shares. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
FCP最大